Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Joe Juba.
Hi.
Kyle Hilliard.
Hi.
And Sergio Vasquez.
Hello.
Big show, as you can tell from the timestamps. We cover a lot of ground here. Starting out talking about Death Stranding.
Woo!
My now most anticipated game of 2019.
I think I'm with you, honestly. Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack.
That trailer is what pushed you over the edge?
Well, it was...
No, the release date.
The trailer
pushed
and
me
the
over
release
edge.
date.
it's coming out.
Well, the trailer as well, but yeah, the release date was a big part of that.
We'll dig into it more.
Yeah,
Sorry to
we're going to
interrupt.
dig in and we're not going to come up for air. And then we're talking about, what is this? There must be a mistake. Call of Duty Modern Warfare with a special guest to join the podcast. And then also we'll talk about some Blizzard stuff, interview with the president of Blizzard. Not on the show, but we'll be recapping it or whatever. And then we're going to talk about World of Warcraft Classic for debatably too long. Then we're going to talk about Void Bastards and Trover Saves the Universe, which is very exciting. We talk a little about Pokemon. They announced like a Pokemon Direct happening before E3, which is going to be Sword and Shield focused. I want to say Sword and Moon. I can't keep. I love this series and I can't keep.
We've given up on any thematics for these games.
Classic counterparts, Sword and Moon.
But there was like a little mini funky Pokemon presentation that we're going to unpack. There's a lot of weird stuff, and then some great emails. 2 weeks worth of emails, so you know they're going to be good.
Double emails.
Hell yeah, double stuffed. And then back half of the show we have Kyle.
An interview with Rick and Morty co-creator Justin Roiland.
Awesome. I was out of the office and Kyle handled that on his own. He insists it's pretty good.
I like Ben's washing his hands of this interview.
If it's bad, it's not my fault.
I'm not associated with this.
I think
The
it's
audio
good.
levels are imperfect, and I'm sorry, everyone.
No, what do you talk about? What's it like?
We talk about making a studio, how you get the confidence to make a studio as someone who wrote TV for a living, and making Trover and his favorite video games of all time.
Does he do any of the funny voices?
I mean, his voice is just a funny voice, so yes.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Justin Roiland interview. Very exciting. Also, just mopping up some stuff. Super Mario Maker 2. Brian Shea has a preview on the site. He got to actually play it, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then we also recorded a new Gameplay Today video. We're kind of show off some of the new stuff. Leo, how'd that video go? What was that like?
It's all right.
I know Shea is very excited for that game, but it's one of those where like, you see the new features, you know what you're getting there. A game that you don't know what you're getting for is Dreams, which Jeff Marchiafava reviewed.
We finally got that review up. Yeah.
What did he give this game, Joe?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot. 9.5, I think?
9.5.
Yeah.
This is a game that we love a lot. We've talked about on the show 1,600 times. Was that, as the reviews editor, was that a tough game to edit the review for? Because it's a little bit of, it could be anything.
So as someone who's written reviews for Media Molecule stuff in the past, like
interesting.
Little Big Planet, I know that those are tough tough reviews to write because it's this weird mixture of like talking about something as a game experience, but also kind of as a creation experience. And you can't really talk about one without the other, and you can't really talk about you can't really separate the discussion either. And anyway, I think Jeff did a really good job with that review, actually, because I know how hard it can be.
Yeah.
And I think on the video front, you and Leo have done a good job with getting some fun videos of Dreams out there too. I was watching your playing the games of 2019 in Dreams.
Yeah.
And cracking up.
That is mainly a Leo thing, but yes, that did seem very good. I'm glad that they're doing well too. It seems like there's still an appetite out there for like what weird crap is being made in Dreams. Here's the end of Jeffem's review. Because Joe, I don't know if you know this, but when you're reading reviews, you can just look at the score and then just read the last paragraph and you kind of get the idea. It's very true. Anyways, but Jeff
that's the
says,
argument why you take scores away. You're just
no. I love scores. I love scores.
Okay.
Jeffem says, Dreams is an idealistic vision of game development where people create, collaborate, and share games purely for the love of gaming. No Dreams game may ever reach the polish of a AAA title, but they also lack the cynical business side of game development where test groups and microtransactions take precedence over unbridled creativity. And that I saw as a beautiful transition to the war against unbridled creativity versus cynicism with Death Stranding. Good God. On Wednesday, there was the start of this stream. PlayStation was streaming out what looked like Death Stranding gameplay, but with a lot of cool black hands covering things up and needed to hit a certain threshold of people watching before all the black hands went away and you could see the new 5th trailer for Death Stranding.
5?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
the 5th
wow.
one.
Okay.
It's wild. The Office, I feel like, was a little bit split on that reaction. It seems like I'm in the bag for all Kojima stuff. There's definitely the camp of The Office that says, this is dumb, just show the trailer. and it is so frustrating to me. Like, oh, you're complaining about somebody doing something interesting with the marketing of their game? Like, I don't understand it.
I like the concept. I like that, the stream and like hitting that point. But the one thing I didn't like was that you could see little bits of the trailer behind the black goop.
Yeah.
And like, so in a weird way, elements of the trailer were spoiled for me before I watched the full thing. I was like, oh, was that a motorcycle? Do you have motorcycles in the game? But like, it was like, so that was kind of weird. But I'm with you. I like kind of taking a strange angle to presenting like a trailer.
Why not? Joe, what is this? What is this face you're making?
I just think it's stupid. I don't know what else to tell you.
Where'd you stand on like the Joaquin Mogren stuff? Like the guy wrapped up in bandages.
Also stupid.
But you love Kojima.
I love Kojima's games. Yeah.
Then you have to accept him for everything he is.
You have to like
Including this
everything
absurd-
about him,
Yes.
always.
No doubt
I don't know.
about it.
It seems that like, and I've said something like this before, but like it's on some level when you have like an auteur creator, like I mean he's sort of like the David Lynch of the video game world, right?
David Lynch, but good, yeah.
Sometimes you get something like Twin Peaks season 1. And sometimes you get things like Twin Peaks season 3. And you can still enjoy the good and still be frustrated with the bad.
But
And
just in terms of the marketing, like
and also marketing isn't a game.
it can be, it can still be fun, and I think he has fun with it every time. At least
He does, yeah. I don't.
I think a majority of the fan base.
Yeah,
does,
so
right?
you didn't enjoy the sort of the swap of Metal Gear Solid 2 because that was sort of the marketing angle, right? Convincing players that you were going to play as Snake, and then the surprise of playing as Raiden. Like that didn't make the game more fun for you at all?
Oh, that's a good question. I was really frustrated by that in the moment. Like
all right.
in retrospect,
Yeah.
like I think it was a cool flourish, but again, that is still something I feel like is more contained within the game, right? Like there's a secret in the game that you don't want to spoil, so you just don't spoil it in the video. It's not like all of the trailers were like big surprise coming, only showing stuff from the tanker. Who knows what's going on? You know,
Right.
just like
I see what you're saying. I
I don't know. I'm not articulating this well, but
No, I think you're doing fine.
To me, it seems like the concept of the like weird playing with your mind marketing stuff. I don't know why that needs to be such like an integral part of Kojima's games when like I almost feel like it's just better to if it's a good game, let the game kind of speak for itself rather than have to like gimmick it up with a bunch of like opaque
teasing and exciting your audience. I think part of the fun, like some of the most fun I've had with Metal Gear games before they've come out, is trying to piece together things from the trailers, trying to predict what's going to happen, try and arrange things correctly. And with Death Stranding, when it's a whole new universe, not only that, it's a whole new universe where you don't know what the edges of the universe are. Like especially that first trailer where it's just, hey, there's whales on a beach and it says, I'll keep coming. It's like, well, what is this game going to be?
See, it's surprising to me that that's fun to you because to me that's like taking a puzzle, dumping it out on the table, and looking at the box to see what you're making, and there's just no picture on the fucking box. Like you don't know what pieces you're assembling. You don't know what anything relates to.
Well, that is what I think is interesting about this trailer, because I feel like things have finally come to, in Kojima speak. Things have like hit the ground, and it starts to realize like, oh, okay, now we're understanding like political factions within this world. It is to a point where the picture is just in focus enough to be like, I got it. I think I understand roughly what this game is going to be.
I do think that even there's a mystery box, like a puzzle box thing where. Do you think you needed to have watched the previous trailers? Well, honestly, kind of, yeah. Like, do you think you needed to have watched the previous trailers to really understand the premise of Death Stranding just from watching this trailer? I think you could understand what is going on in Death, like what the overall theme of Death Stranding is just from watching this one trailer.
I think you're right. I think like the last one at E3 was also pretty important for showing off. Oh, no, we have character names. Hang on.
Fragile.
For showing off kind of Fragile's point of view, right? Yeah. But then this one in particular, I think it sets it all up reasonably well, where it's like, hey, fulfill the president's dying wish of uniting the nation by going west and delivering your packages.
Right, that's why-
reconnecting
Finish what
societies.
Amelie.
That's why I don't
started.
necessarily
Yeah.
like buy into the like, oh yeah, let's try to piece together what's going on in Death Stranding from these trailers. I'm more into it because I really like the vibe that game is giving off. Like I don't need
Right.
I don't need to understand what is going on in the trailer right now. I don't necessarily care because when the game comes out, I'll either understand it or it'll be like super abstract and weird. And either way, it won't really like. I don't need to understand Death Stranding right now. I don't have this like compelling urge to understand it from the very mysterious trailers that they have. But like watching those trailers, I was excited because it feels like this is thematically like interesting and I'm curious to see what happens.
Yeah.
But I don't like, I guess the part where you're piecing it together isn't like super interesting to me.
I also just think, looking back at Metal Gear Solid 5's rollout of trailers, I was frustrated with myself for not paying more attention in a way and not setting up a flare for things that you just see. I feel like they are hiding a lot of things in plain sight. I'm sure people are going to go back and watch these trailers once the game comes out and be like, oh my God, that's right there. Like I remember with Metal Gear Solid 5, they showed like that opening scene. There's that moment where it's like, wait a minute, doesn't the guy with bandages over his face have Kiefer's voice too? But like no one else was talking about it. It's like, all right, I guess not. Like maybe we mentioned it once on the podcast or something. But
Or we just brushed it off.
yeah, exactly. It's
You
like,
know?
oh, it turns out that's a very important thing. And it's just right there. And I feel like with this trailer too, it's like, you know, there's the picture of the family where it's Sam, the main character, and the pregnant wife whose like face is smudged out. And then somebody else that might be the president. I was a little bit unclear about who that was in the picture. But like that type of thing, it could be super important, you know, and it'd just be that lightning rod later on of looking back at it.
Yeah, yeah. And I should say too, like I was referring, my rage earlier is a lot more about the marketing machinery that surrounds these kinds of reveals, because when it comes to like the actual trailer,
Yeah.
I pretty much agree with everything Suriel was saying. Like, this is for once. I mean, last summer I wrote like an opinion piece on the site that was just like, stop all of the teasing and like show me what the game is.
And Kyle, you deleted that opinion piece, didn't you? Off the
Yeah,
site?
I violently disagree with that opinion. I want to go into Death Stranding as confused as possible.
But I feel like this trailer was in some, well, not specifically an answer to my complaint, but it answers that complaint.
We have a possible baseline at least now. I feel like
I can imagine what an hour playing Death Stranding feels like
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, and even sometimes maybe in a less than flattering way. Like I feel like the most interesting part of the trailer, if you're not super into the lore of this new universe, was that shot of him like running across the field, and then like the orange beacon comes up underneath him. It's like, okay, so they're detecting you. They can detect the last place where that backpack was.
They're
and
going.
then-
It seems like they're going after that backpack almost specifically,
Right, and, like,
because you're
knocking
dropping
materials out of it.
inventory off as you're taking damage. It looks like.
Yeah, they're trying to stop you from helping these cities connect, or like just communicating or relaying things in between the cities. But then it was that shot of when he's kind of like juking the soldiers and trying to like dodge away from them. I'm like, okay, there's the gameplay of Death Stranding. That's what I'm going to be frustrated with when I'm actually playing this thing.
Yeah.
That's the interesting part, is that like for all like we have this very nice cinematic flair, everyone looks fantastic, but it's like, oh, when you hit the guy, things pop out of him. Like,
No, I think, but
this
it's
is a
just
video
like
game.
in terms of wrapping your mind around it. Yeah, it is nice to have that moment of like, okay, this is the video game. I see it's going to be like a good animation, but a little bit of a janky animation of the character kind of bobbing and weaving as you're trying to get around these soldiers. And then the twist, which I don't know if I fully saw coming, of then he starts just clocking them with his fist. I thought it was all going to be about dodging those guys for a long time.
See, in some ways, that's actually the disappointing part of this trailer to me, is even though I wanted like gameplay specifics, I feel like the specifics they showed me didn't really get me excited. I'm still excited for the game, but not just on the merit of like the details that they showed us today, or in the trailer rather, because like it, as far as the melee combat, as far as the third-person shooting, the bits of stealth that we saw, I don't see a whole lot there that seems distinct.
But what about just the idea of traversing this completely unknown world a little bit like a game that Andy McNamara isn't the biggest fan of, but like a little bit of Breath of the
Joey
Wild,
there,
right?
right?
Like,
Yeah.
I am such a sucker just for realizing like, oh, this is like my favorite setup for a movie or anything in fiction, just an Annihilation style scenario, right? Where it's like you have to venture out into the unknown. You have no idea what could be out there. It could be spooky, it could be amazing. Have at it. Like that is just the best type of movie or game experience in my mind.
I also like how it communicated the very simple thing of like how you use the ladder and how you use the rappelling gear.
Yeah.
Like just being able to get up on top of structures using that as a mechanic is interesting to me, you know?
Yeah.
And I wonder if those are constant things that you have, or just things.
Yeah, I
'cause,
don't know.
Like you draw, Ben, a parallel to Breath of the Wild, which I mean, I see that in the world. When I imagine the gameplay to this, I'm kind of hoping for something a little Metal Gear Solid 5 in the sense of it being important, your loadout screen being important. That you go out there and like, what gear am I going to bring with me? Do I bring my motorcycle? Do I bring my ladder? What kinds of
for sure.
You have to prepare.
Yeah,
I bet they'll have that. Right?
You need. I mean, again, very much like I don't want it to be a Metal Gear Solid 5, but just capture that essence of you choose strategically how you want to approach a situation, and then you get down there and on the ground, there are routes or solutions that support that approach.
Your ladder's only 43 feet tall, and you need a 46 feet tall ladder.
I needed the 50-foot ladder, not the 43-foot one.
That facility, the bridge facility, I guess it's like a company or something like that. Does it? That teases like something like that. Like
Yeah,
that
like
looks
it's a
like your
hub.
base. Like that's
Yeah.
where your motorcycle is and stuff, and you can like leave it behind.
And your
take it with
family
you.
owns the company? Is that the implication there with the
Because
Bridges?
Sam Bridge is his name, and the company's
Right.
called Bridges, right?
Yeah.
So you'd think otherwise it's a weird. Hi, I'm Joe Game Informer.
What if Sam's just like, that's just a coincidence with every character?
No
he meets?
relation. Sam Bridges, no relation.
Hang on, I'm sorry, this is rude on the podcast, but Kojima's calling me right
yeah.
now. Hang on a second. He wants to know, do you want collectibles in the world or not? Hang on. Yeah, he says it's really urgent. He has to know.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes?
No.
Joe, collectibles in the world or not?
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to go with collectibles. Okay, great. Thank you.
Were there collectibles in Metal Gear Survive?
I mean, everything was literally a collectible, and that you used it for crafting.
Okay.
You just found a bunch of crap and turned
Was
it
that
into
good?
like spears. No, that game was not good.
Don't play it.
Call him back.
Isn't there something kind of cool, though, of like a Shadow of the Colossus style vibe, where it's like you're just exploring this huge world and it's barren?
Yeah.
A giant Troy Baker comes out of the ground. And starts
Yeah.
They did show like a creature of some kind. It's like very dark, but there was like a big foot that came down.
Oh, those are the what are they called? The BTs.
The BTs, yeah.
Right.
Which are the like shadowy figures that
Yeah.
are kind of
The
ethereal. Yeah.
beached things, apparently, is what BT stands
Oh, is
for.
that right?
Is what the Reddit says. I don't know if they're correct or where they got that from exactly, but they're going with beached things, which
All right.
I love a lot as, in theory, what's actually going to be out there for the supernatural force. That because you have, what is it? It's a very specific thing. The extinction factor, you can feel them, but you can't see them.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like a spooky thing. And they
And
come
he
out
can-
in the rain, it seems like.
And he can
So
use
he
his
can feel
bridge
the BTs
baby.
because of the EF.
What's that?
You can feel the BTs because of the EF.
That's right. Yes, Kyle, the BB?
The bridge baby? He can
Yes.
use the bridge baby to help sense them or something?
Right. I mean, it's all very clear.
That's what, yeah, you plug into the baby.
You plug into the other side, right?
Which is scary because, yeah, it connects you to the other side. I love that they're scared about this power.
Also,
of
like
connecting to
I
a
like the
baby.
touch that the guy off screen complained that it made him ill. Like,
Right.
it's like nauseating to do this to connect to a bridge baby.
Well, to be fair, babies are very gross and they
Yeah,
poop and
that's
pee
true.
constantly.
How do you think the baby feels about it?
Good
I mean, I
point,
just
good
think it's
point.
really smart to contain babies in one container, so like nothing that they do really escapes that pod. It's it's a very clean way to manage a baby.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm surprised that more parents haven't caught on to
Yeah,
the,
just
the
submerge your
bridge
baby in liquid.
approach. Yeah.
Just keep them alive somehow. I don't know.
Her cereal, you need to write a book called The Bridge Baby Method.
That's right. You just
one
throw a
page.
baby in water.
One page.
Get one of those Death Stranding jars.
Here's my pamphlet
Call it a
about how to
day.
raise a child. Oh wait, that would kill them. Oh wait, never mind.
So it seems like this timefall rain, it seems like everybody's really scared of timefall, which is triggered from the rain, or the rain itself is timefall and it just like ages things quickly. Is it
Sometimes
also the
when it
read you have?
rains, yeah, things get dangerous. I think. is the
Right,
idea,
where it
'cause-
like ages the bird super quickly, and also like Fragile has that umbrella, which it was sci-fi, which makes a little bit more sense now. That if that touches her skin, there's a very serious consequence apparently.
Yeah.
Which is a fun idea.
Do you think that that's going to come into play with weird young Lindsay Wagner Bionic Woman versus old Lindsay Wagner?
Well, that's the biggest question mark, is what's happening with apparent time travel. There's shots like in the old trailer that look kind of more World War II. This almost looked World War I-ish.
Yeah.
And it seems like there's kind of ghosts that you're fighting, but I don't know if you're
But he
gonna
could
be-
still shoot them. Like, they weren't just, like, images, you know?
Right, exactly. So
Yeah.
it's like, is it literal time travel, or is it just the idea that this Mads Mikkelsen character, I'm sorry, specifically
Cliff.
Thank you, Cliff, is just
Specifically?
yes, somewhat like unstuck in time, and he's just connected, and he has this effed up thing, and he's just carrying forward. But he is a soldier from World War One.
It
I think
seems
Troy's
like-
character also. I don't remember Heath or whatever was it.
Oh, you're talking
Troy-
about Higgs?
Higgs. Sorry.
Yeah, so Higgs, it seems like he's employing, like he's part of the radical faction that's trying to keep America torn apart, and then he's hiring Cliff, this kind of undead soldier man.
Who wants to go to the moon?
Yeah, all of the weird.
Did you take that to mean that you're actually going to be going to the moon in the game? Leo's nodding aggressively.
Hiding in plain sight,
I think you're going
man.
to the, yeah, I think
Why
you're going
else
to the
would
moon.
you say it if you weren't going to the moon?
I guess you don't drop that moon bomb
Even
unless you
the
can back
moon.
it up.
I don't
dude.
know. You're not going to beat Final Fantasy IV. Going to the moon.
All right, let's make
No
the
more
moon
moon
prediction
games.
right now officially. Joe, are you going to the moon in Death Stranding? Not DLC, base game.
Probably, yeah.
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 You're going to the moon, man.
I will argue that the moon will also be messed up.
Oh, interesting. Well, if it is,
Moon
like,
is also bad.
as the one trailer kind of implied, that the Death Stranding is like the entire Big Bang in reverse, that it probably would be the entire universe, right?
Yeah.
Which is a very fun idea. It's
Is
not
it-
like
is
Earth
it-
is just being hosed.
Is it new for this trailer to refer to it as the Death Stranding?
I don't think I'd heard that before.
I had not heard that
I
before.
don't think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Who got the branding on that? That's a very good
know.
move. What else stood out to you, Kyle?
Die Hard Man.
Oh, that's right. Let's run down these characters because they're very fun. Also, just seeing new Kojima names, I'm very excited about.
By the way, I really.
How does this it's just so ridiculous. It's like Babelfish became sentient and
No,
started
it's
naming
fun.
characters
I
in
like
the game.
it because like names ultimately don't matter. I just played Trover Saves the Universe, and there's a character in that game called Doopy Dooperson, and that like, and it's
That's
just
in a game called Trover
Yeah.
Saves. It's not
No,
trying
and
to
I
be
think
But the
that's
thing
serious.
is,
really
like,
good.
I like how I don't know. I find Die Hard Man much easier to remember than like
Yeah.
Bill. You know, like
Well, also, just I love.
I like the absurdity of
This
it.
is going back, but I love overthinking about Kojima names. Like Shadow Moses, I feel like is one of the coolest names for a location, and even just the quick reference to the city of Edgenot. I'm like, yeah, it's a cool sci-fi city
Yeah.
name, Edgenot. Hell yeah.
How does that
I guess
spell,
I
do you
just
think?
I mean
I don't know.
it's an easy thing to make fun of, but it is stupid. I have to admit that these names are stupid, but I don't know. I kind of appreciate how like just overt they are.
Wait a minute. Now I'm thinking about this when you say these names are stupid. Let's start out with Sam, main character.
Sam
Cliff.
Bridges.
Really, there's a real Cheers theme going on here.
Bridges and Cliff also.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Of course. There we go. Now we get Fragile.
Yeah, which is a weird, disconcerting line of like, let's name our women Quiet and Fragile.
Oh, interesting. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
And that's Leah Seydoux character. Does anybody know how to pronounce her name?
I'm not sure.
She was from The Leftovers.
Oh, okay.
Oh, is she
Wait,
in that?
no. That's Leia Seydoux.
Oh,
was
no, not
in,
Fragile, or
she was
the
in
Mission
James
Impossible,
Bond.
Inspector, and yeah.
I'm talking about the next character, Mama.
Oh, yeah. Don't be confused. So, Mama,
Not to be confused with Big Mama.
that's
God,
so
I didn't
close.
even make that
When that first popped up, it's like, oh, you can't get that close to Big Mama.
Between Mama and Big Mama and Die Hard Man and Hot Coldman, like there are deliberate Metal Gear parallels going on.
Oh,
here.
totally.
They're just going to call a character Boss.
Yeah.
His
it
name is
would've
going to
been
be
best.
Boss.
Bass.
Not the Boss,
Bass.
or Big Boss.
Well,
Big Bass. Bog Bass.
It's pronounced Bass, actually.
he probably is the boss of the Bridges Corporation.
Yeah.
If they're still considered corporations.
Boss of the Bridges
It's-
boys.
That's going to be like a little Easter egg, right? Someone calling him boss.
Also-
Kinda,
Yeah.
right? And winking violently at the camera.
Okay, so the president,
Yes.
is she not Sam's mother?
I had that impression the first time I watched it as well. And also I thought that the president was also Amelie, but those are different characters because it seems like the president's name is Bridget.
Right, which if she's Sam's mother, that means her name is Bridget Bridges.
We don't know. We're only getting that from like the picture
We're
and she kind of
hoping.
has like an
We're
affectionate
hoping.
way.
Her name is
hope
Bridget
her
Bridges.
name
And
is
he
Bridget.
calls her Bridget.
You're
Who
right.
calls their mom by their first name?
Oh, good point.
Yeah,
Some
only
people
maniacs.
I don't know.
It's a different
Maybe
world.
it's a
you?
stepmom.
Do you?
No.
Call my mom Bridget? No. It's not her name.
But I hear you. I felt that too, Surya, but probably not. They probably just have some connection. That's why they have the photo taken together. But
Connection.
Maybe mother-in-law, honestly.
a certain someone in the office, I won't point fingers, but his name rhymes with Randy McNamara. He couldn't get over the line, "You're the president of Jack S." He's like, that's the dumbest line I've ever heard in my life. Like, it's a totally fine line in a video game trailer. Are my standards too low? Like, that didn't strike anybody as that dumb, right?
Do you
I
think
don't know.
Norman Reedus is like up-graveling his voice to sound a little bit more like Snake? Like, do it a little bit more Snake. Do you think like Kojima was like, give it a little more?
I think they
gravel?
have a filter in post. It's like a slider for pure gruffness. But I like the idea of like the United cities of America
Thank you.
are still kind of around and a thing, but clearly it's going to be at the start of the game. He doesn't believe in it. And then it's like, oh no, we can unify after all.
Hero's journey.
It's a story for today's era.
That's true.
Joe, I don't know if you got that.
No, I'm there.
And he says rebuilding America isn't going to get rid of the BTs.
The problem with America today is people aren't civil enough about it.
And there's too many hand footprints everywhere.
Yeah.
There is that line about, like, I'm kind of curious about what the actual apocalyptic event was here because they talk about it just being explosions, but then Sam or is it Higgs? Someone has the line about like connecting the world with cables.
Well, I think that's just more.
Yes, Sam said covering the world in cable didn't bring an end to war and suffering.
That's just talking about like fiber optics and like the internet. I don't think that's actually what brought it down. I think that's just more of a poetic way of talking about the age we're in right now.
Who knows?
I know. It's exactly. I think
The cables led to
apocalyptic
acid
event
rain.
is
That's
just going to be the Death Stranding, right? Where everything starts decaying, and that's what's going to tear it down.
Yeah,
May-
what is it though?
But what is the Death Stranding? Was the Death Stranding like there was a faulty
It's an
cable?
opposite Big Bang.
have
There's
to
no
ask-
nothing left for debate here.
Okay,
We have to
never
ask
mind.
Higgs because Higgs is the one who has an understanding of the Death Stranding. I've come to understand the truth of the Death Stranding. he
Right,
says.
and he's the leader, I guess, of the like sectarian warfare group.
Are you sure that's Higgs who
Do you-
says that?
pretty sure.
Do we know his last name? Because I'm not unconvinced it's like
Boson?
Not Boson, yeah.
It's going to be Boson. I bet you're right. Okay.
Or he's going to have a split personality like I'm Higgs and I'm Boson.
No, this is smart stuff.
Okay, that's right.
Okay, Mama, there we go, who's Amelie. Seems like the same character, not?
What?
No, two different characters.
Really? Well, who's Mama then?
Mama's the young woman who kind of looks like Chell.
That's the lady that look.
Oh,
She's-
you're right.
She's
Yeah.
the one from the leftovers.
The one that looks
Margaret,
like-
Margaret Qualley.
Oh, okay, the one that looks like the
Qualley?
DMC5 character. It
Yeah,
seems like
yeah,
back
yeah,
at the
yeah.
base. Okay. Deadman, that's Del Toro.
Yep.
Everybody loves Deadman. I think Oprah's dating him. Heartman, Die Hard Man, Higgs.
who
and
is
then
just
Amelie.
the IT guy, kind of, right? Like the
Yeah.
I can't remember the Metal Gear name. Why am I drawing a blank?
Otacon?
Otacon. Maybe like an Otacon stand-in to a certain
Also,
degree.
do love that shot of the guy removing his golden mask to reveal he has another black metal mask underneath it.
Hell yeah. Okay, yeah. Sorry, militant separatist group was, of course, the phrase that was supposed to be rolling off my tongue, and they're called, as everybody knows, the Homo Demons.
Homo demons.
Yeah,
That's right.
beautiful.
Human
because
demons, right?
The sort of icon of Kojima Productions and the somewhere in this game is something they call Homo Ludens.
It's
Yeah.
like humans
that
that play or
astronaut
whatever.
thing.
Yeah. So like Homo Ludens is supposed to be that robosuit thing.
Right, which you're gonna have to wear to go to the moon, probably, right?
And if you
What do
pre-order
you mean fun? That's fun.
No, you're right. Yeah. I did not make that connection until
Okay.
right now. You're going.
That's
You're
another
totally going to
connection.
the stupid moon.
Oh no,
Oh, brother.
Also, Kojima tweeted out a long statement about, it seems like the theme of the game. He's always big on his themes. Every Metal Gear had like the one-word theme going throughout it. God, can we try and remember? 5 was race. I remember that because thinking like, well, I guess it's about like the struggling of communication and language. And now this game seems to be about the struggle to communicate.
To connect with people.
Yeah,
This
physically.
connection is this one.
Yeah. So it's kind of just zooming out a little bit from the language specificity of 5. But then, oh God, what was it? 1 is Gene. Oh, I forget exactly how
I don't remember the one word for 4. I remember that there was the concept of like no place to hide was the
Right.
like one of the unifying things.
Was it
there.
overlong for 4?
How dare you? Do you think
You can beat that game in like 3 hours if you skip the cutscenes.
That's a good point.
do people put too much attention on like the big themes that Kojima's going for? Like he's always is a visionary with his themes before the game comes out, right? But then it's like you play Metal Gear Solid 5. I don't think anyone's like, this is really getting to the core of race relations. Do you feel like this game's going to do a more successful version of getting to the core of it is about like connecting humanity, man?
No, I don't think he's gonna like. He's not going to be the one to convince people, like he makes that statement. I hope you, through this game that you find, or whatever the quote was, like, I hope this game helps you make connections with people or whatever it was.
Turns out tomorrow is in our hands. I'm writing Kojima's name for president for 2020. I don't know if anybody's with me, but
This game will convince us
find
to put down our
out.
cell phones, finally.
I think part of it, I mean, like, in some, especially in this regard, I feel like he's kind of coming off of a losing record. Like, if you're looking at MGS5 and some of the dropped balls there in terms of, like, thematic and gameplay follow through in some ways.
Well, especially
which, again,
because,
I liked that game a lot, but it feels like some of the things that game did. Some of the things about that game that did not work for me seemed like kind of elementary things about stitching together the story and the characters.
But you understand there were very bizarre circumstances for that game's development in particular.
Yeah, and I think it's like on one hand it's easy to just point the finger at Konami there, but I mean I think you also have to some degree point the finger at the person directing that game for 5 years.
Well, yeah, I agree in terms of what he was messaging, which I don't know if you remember, but early on in Metal Gear Solid 5's development, remember he kept saying like, oh, I'm doing some pretty controversial things, and if I don't pull this off, I'm going to be kicked out of the video game industry because the places I'm going with this game, you won't believe. And then we all played the game, and it's like, what is that? Like,
Is the
Remember that-
controversial place like you're spending too much money, so you got kicked out of the game industry by the people you were taking money from?
Remember that line with quiet and you'll be ashamed of your words and deeds?
Exactly.
And
It's like, oh yeah, she blew through your skin. Now I'm definitely
she's
ashamed.
just another version of the end.
So I guess all I'm saying is that like this could come together, like thematically, this could come together in an interesting way.
Yeah.
What I'm hoping it doesn't do is that sense of, if you've seen the trailers for Death Stranding, you've basically seen a few seconds of every cutscene in the game, and it's all just sort of feels abbreviated and cobbled together like that.
Yeah. I'm hoping it's bold. I'm hoping that,
Like thematically?
yeah, I'm hoping that we've never played a game like this before. And like a friend of mine just texted me and he's like, you think it's going to be fun? I'm like, I don't know if I care.
I feel like
I just want it to be crazy.
I don't know. I
and
think from what I've
weird.
seen, I think we have a pretty solid understanding that's going to be like sort of like almost at least, let's say 60-70% to a Metal Gear game where you're just kind of walking around, like you're doing a lot of sneaking, it seems like, because even in that early segment where he's like, before he starts fighting off all the guys in yellow, he's trying to sneak around them, but then he gets caught, and then here's combat.
Because
and you're
there's no
doing a
place
lot
to
of
hide.
third-person shooter. It's like a lot of the camera angles even look very similar to Metal Gear Solid 5, so I think it's...
I am hoping for like a more self-directed sort of goals and stuff like that. Because Metal Gear 5, it was very much like, all right, I'm going to complete this goal. All right, drop in, do it, and get out. I hope I have like freedom to just kind of move around the world at my own pace and do what I want to do in whatever avenue I want to do it. You know, like I don't want to have to go in and out constantly. We'll see.
Right.
I don't know.
I do love that we have enough information at this point to actually have these discussions. When it felt just like pure speculation before. I am happy for the info drop that we got.
Yes, I'm so happy, hopefully, to be rid of those conversations. Like, I don't even know what's going on in Death Stranding. Like that thing that people have been saying for 3 years now. Of, wake me when there's gameplay. It's like, well, we have it, and it's starting to make sense.
And we barely even touched on it. Like November
my God.
2019.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was the biggest twist of the trailer.
Yeah, I did not see that coming at all.
If would you have guessed at this point in the year, or like at the beginning of the year, that Death Stranding would come out before The Last of Us Part 2?
No, I absolutely never would have guessed that.
This morning, I mean, even Kato and I
Still might not.
we were talking this morning about the like, oh, there's the rumor that it's going to hit November 8th before like the actual reveal happened. And he and I were both just like, nope, that's not going to happen.
Right.
And I totally like ate my hat this morning. That was.
I know it's
I
easy
was
to
wrong.
always
not
take
wearing
this
it
path,
today.
but I'm always in the camp of like, we'll see. Games are hard. It might not come together. What do you think the odds are of it hitting that date?
What's the history of Metal Gear and getting delayed?
I was actually trying to look it up today. I don't think 5 was delayed. I was trying to remember if Ground Zeroes was, but I think 5 hit its release date. But 5, as you mentioned, was a bizarre.
Yeah.
I don't think 4 was delayed.
I remember there being a delay for 4, but
Yeah. Okay. I could be wrong. I don't remember.
At some point, the history of this, like, it's more of a modern landscape than a franchise history kind of.
Especially like different publisher, different situation. But it's endlessly exciting to have a creator as bold as Kojima be given a crap ton of money from a company that backs its creators in a big way like Sony. Like, nothing's more exciting in the game industry than this.
I mean, he did announce earlier this year or late last year that it was going to take more time than he expected. So it's interesting that this date comes after that sort of announcement.
After
gives me some
saying like,
confidence.
"Woof, we're a little behind everyone. We're not as far along as I was hoping we'd be."
Yeah, you dirty dog. And then also just like it's weird that the Wired article wasn't too long ago talking about the PlayStation 5 with Mark Cerny. And remember, like the Wired guy asked Mark Cerny about like, oh, so is it possible for games to kind of be split gen, like the game you're producing, Death Stranding? And I think the article said Mark Cerny winked 17 times at the voice recorder. And it's like, oh, I guess not. All right.
Well,
I'm sure maybe there still will be a next gen version. Who knows?
Yeah.
And it could slip to next gen anyway. We still have no idea, but super exciting.
do you think the connections thing is going to be purely thematic, or do you think there will be some sort of online component?
Well, they've talked.
Oh, that's interesting.
There was a mention, and there's been obviously no explanation fully on how this works, but they've said that this game has a like unique take on co-op.
Did they? Mm-hmm. Huh.
I'm going to guess it's basically Dark Souls co-op where people can leave stuff for each other.
Or
That
maybe
could
you're
be.
carrying that body on your back as your
Co-op friend.
who's like not playing at the time.
I'll play as the backpack.
Or it could be something with like the BTs, right? Like you might be able to invade somebody else's game,
Dark
or
Souls.
because they're all connected to something. They have like those strings. So if you're going to make something kind of connected to the larger theme, it seems like it would be these abstract connected things that can't get free of their connection or whatever the hell Mads Mikkelsen's talking
I hope
about.
it's playable offline entirely.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Do you think Mads Mikkelsen and Norman Reedus like each other? You think they're pals?
Yeah, I think
Nice.
I think it'd
that's
be
good to know.
I think that's such a fun little community, and they know that they'll get a crap load of attention from the internet every time Kojima tweets out a sandwich with a picture of their face on it or whatever. Like, by the way, I got a kick out of this. Kojima retweeted somebody else who just said, Death Stranding has a female character called Fragile and another called Mama. Paging Dr. Freud. Like that Kojima retweets that. All right, buddy.
Nice.
That was a mistranslation. I don't think he understood what he was
Talking
retweeting.
about my characters. Cool. Weird. All right, very exciting. Do you guys all want to clap out in perfect harmony because you're all connected?
All right, we'll do it on 3. 1, 2.
Hey, Dan Tack.
Hey, I'm here. What's up, buddy?
I'm excited to have you, but
I
you're kind of like a
love being here.
standard on the podcast.
Am I?
Who is it? I'm squinting down at the edge of the table. Andy McNamara!
Hello.
Holy God, it's been a while.
It's been a long time.
Walk us through everything that you've been doing.
How much time do we have?
All the time you want, man. The podcast is too long to begin with.
Yeah,
so-
exactly. I've just been busy doing junk. You know, doing stuff that I do,
Including going to pre-E3.
including going to pre-E3.
Before we get into any specifics, I'm not asking you to blow an embargo, but give me your skepticism over E3 going in and then leaving pre-E3, how that needle changed.
I mean, I think that the point I guess I would say is going in. I mean, I've been a little. I think as a general rule, I'm always a little down going into E3. And by the way, I don't want to like sound like I'm like down on E3 as a whole. Like it usually ends up being pretty fun and pretty cool. It's more like I have been to them all, and it just kind of wears on me a bit because it's just a yearly event. So I have an unrealistic view of it. So please don't take any of my like negativity towards it. It's just me being me.
Okay.
More than being negative. I always feel bad when people are like, E3 is the greatest thing ever, and I'm so excited to go for my first time. And I'm like,
Taking a long drag off your cigarette. Like, calm down, kid.
And I don't like being that just kind of like negative force in it. I'm negative for me, but I don't want it to be negative to anyone else.
Okay, so pre-E3, was it a thing of like, oh, there might be more games here than we expected?
Yeah, I think, as I would say many times, like, people are always trying to make good and interesting games. And I think I saw a lot of like good and interesting games, either in development or like that will be further along that will be shown at E3. And I'm positive on what I saw.
Okay, including maybe number 1, the new Call of Duty?
Modern Warfare.
Just Modern Warfare.
Yes.
Because the other one was technically Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare.
Or yeah.
Which is a bizarre thing, but sure, why not?
I mean, yeah, I've heard a lot of chatter around the internet, with the rumor and everything's like, this is terrible. What terrible naming conventions. But like, we've doing this for a lot of the revered series, like God of War.
I mean, God of War
Right.
just did it. No one said everything. People just like to make fun of Activision and Call of Duty because they're Activision and Call of Duty.
They also
It's-
name games like Advanced Warfare. Like, it's all over the place. They're never amazing names.
Yeah, but there is Call of Duty. There is a Call of Duty like hatred out there that is just so unreasonable. Like that story about an E3 several years back where everyone in the audience was super hyped for this new space game that was out there.
Oh, that's right.
And it was Infinite War. Like the title card comes up at the end, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, and all of the oohs and ahs are just like, oh. You just thought this thing was
and
super
that campaign
cool.
was still really good in that
It
game,
was.
too.
It was an excellent campaign.
Yeah, and now this is the same team.
Yeah.
Infinity Ward's coming back
Yes.
with Modern Warfare.
Correct.
Did you get to play it?
Not single player.
Not single player. Interesting. So what did you learn about it? What's interesting this time around?
Well, they well, first of all, for the demo was pretty long. They spent a lot of time going through a lot of technology, which I thought was pretty interesting. And it's kind of fun to watch them talk about their technology because, I mean, it's a big franchise. It's like $1 billion franchise, so they get to spend a lot of money. So they have like a new tech team in like Poland that's building an engine for this.
Wait, a new engine
It's
for
a new
Call of
engine.
Duty?
Yeah, it's a new engine.
What?
It's a new
Yeah,
engine.
that's crazy.
And it utilizes photogrammetry.
Okay.
Thank you for saying that first, so I didn't
Good
get to
job.
murder
I just had to dive in.
For the record, we had to edit that into his mouth. That was the 4th take.
It was not. And anyway, it's crazy, like, just hearing the description of this stuff. Like, they take hundreds of photos and then can get this lifelike image of it because of that. And then I guess what the Poland team has been working on has been, like, making sure all the light works with this stuff. So, in a lot of other games, they have like night vision and infrared, but it's really just an overlay on what you're seeing.
Sure.
This is supposed to be an actual representation of what it really would be like, down to heat signatures and night. It's crazy. Like supposedly the tech is out of this world.
Yeah, they spent a lot of time. Like they would show us like a scene, right? And they would go like, here it is in night vision, and you could see like the patches on the. That's realistic. They put patches all over them so you can see them, so they're highly visible when you have those. And then they turn it off and be like, it's obviously invisible at that point. And I know these are set up situations. By the way, I get it that they're trying to force a point. So please don't even think I'm just falling for whatever. But it is interesting to watch, like, and to see the technology. And the other thing is that like they were pointing out like, hey, this would be a thing of rubble that we would sit here in place and put all the parts on and texture and everything like that. But by using these technologies, we can make them look much more realistic because they are realistic. We took them. We didn't like set these bricks up. These are the way these bricks fell. So they spent a lot of time going out and taking basically textures and photography of things so they could use them in game to make them more realistic, which I think we should go back to before we talk about this technology more, which is that the name of the game is this because they want to do Modern Warfare with characters, like Captain Price is in this.
Is it a reboot?
No. So what it is it's if you did, like Modern Warfare when it first happened, dealt with all the like things of that time. Right, like what we were scared of, you know what I mean? Like what were the things that we feared, right? And basically warfare has changed, since God, how long ago is it now?
That's 2008, I think.
So 11 years ago, right?
Yeah, about that.
So like what they're pointing to now is that now there's more kind of like freedom fighters. The person you're fighting isn't just like that's the Russian guy. He's got all the gear on and the gun and the helmet. That's the bad guy. They're trying to shoot to this kind of like modern gray of like, here's just someone in the streets. Is that a bad guy? Good guy. Do you know what I mean? So like they have tier 1 fighters on both sides, and they also have like kind of rebel fighters on both sides, which the rebel fighters you don't really know. So it's taking those kind of like modern concerns of like modern war and putting them in this game as opposed to like the old school ones or like being like, they said a nuke's already gone off. All the other things have already gone on in all the other games. Like everything's gone wrong. This is a new opportunity for us to experience and challenge ourselves with new, more modern terrors. In this case, like one of the things they showed was a lot like, what was the movie?
Avatar.
We talked about this.
Zero Dark 30?
Zero Dark 30.
Okay.
So, like the end of Zero Dark 30, when they go at the end to kill Osama bin Laden.
Right.
Spoiler alert.
Oh,
Yeah.
Like that whole scene where they're like breaching. It's all night vision, real tense, moving in. That is a lot of the demo that we saw.
So it's modern, like 2013 modern. Got it.
Well, it's just more that like when you would kick open the door and it wouldn't just be like militants that you would be able to like pick out my way. It would be like there'd be civilians in there and they want you to like have to like clear the room and think through the room. Do you shoot the lights out? Do you not shoot the lights out?
Okay.
So like when you look at the room. So in this example, right, you're going through and you're working with your team to go in and breach this. Do you breach the door? Do you just knock it down? Do you just shoot through it? Like they were literally like taking shotguns and just being like, this guy's shooting at me. One of the people starts shooting at you and the guy just takes his machine gun and just straights it through the bathroom. Just goes to town on the bathroom and like kills the dude because he's just, some tier 1 badass who knows that there's someone in there he doesn't give a crap who and just owns it, right?
Feels a little more Rainbow Six-y.
Yeah, so it definitely has that sense. But it's definitely... Like Rainbow Six has a lot of choices because it's like a multiplayer game.
Right.
This one is still like kind of a driven linear experience, at least in the parts that I saw.
And so is it continuing those events from Modern Warfare 3, or is it pretending that the world was never nuked, that never
This
happened?
is a new story.
Completely new. Okay.
Yeah, okay. It's completely new. It's saying like if those characters were in this modern warfare environment.
Right. Okay.
Does that make sense? So I think that's important to know that it's like, I mean, they may be like call outs. I mean, that's the thing we don't know yet. There might be a level that's in this game that's like a total the thing that came to my mind immediately was like at the end of the original one, there was that whole scene on the plane, Mile High Club. That was that first one, right?
Yeah.
Where like it had nothing to, never mind. It had nothing to do with the game, but like there was this whole like kind of terrorist on the plane thing that was like kind of a cool ending to the game. Something like that. I thought like maybe they'll do some homages to the original game in scenes.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like in kind of remakes. I was assuming that might happen, but nothing they showed us. It was all new.
Interesting. It's weird for them to lean so heavily on tech and like a new engine so close to the end of the generation. That feels like the start of a new generation type of thing. But 1 year away from the new generation, they're like, hey, we're reinventing our tech right now. It's not time.
It looked really good.
Okay.
I mean, it was surprising how well it looked. And then we asked, I was asking, like, what are you running this tech on? And they said it was on a PlayStation 4.
Okay.
So, I mean,
Nice.
and it was coming to the consoles. So it looked like good. It was one of those things, too. It was weird. Like, when you looked at the actors, they looked real. Like, they looked like a photo until, and I'm not trying to do this as a negative, until they moved. You know what I mean? And did video game type things. You know, like, I moved my shoulder. You know, they have their kind of like idle routines, and that showed that they were not real people, right? Because they were kind of running through video game style routines. But they did look pretty realistic. I mean, it was very impressive.
So I know that like the art director who left Infinity Ward and went to Respawn, he came back, Joel. I don't know if you talked to him, but is it the same leads basically as Infinite Warfare?
No, not entirely. There's
Okay.
just some people. Some people came back, I think to kind of work on this game that they wanted to, and some of them were in different roles when they worked on the previous game. But there are new people.
Okay.
It's a big studio.
Yeah,
it's a
for
big
sure.
studio.
Well, that sounds cool.
So that was that one demo, which went through a lot of different kind of emotions as they breached and cleared. And then the other demo was one where you played on the other side, which was more like kind of the rebel kind of like just side of it, which was you played as a kid.
What?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So this is where it starts to get kind of different. So it starts out the story, and this is like kind of where it starts to get a little heavy and starts to play into that moral gray. Is that like basically there is in the streets like a father and his kids, things start to go off. In this case, I think the bad people are Russians, have shown up and they start shooting people in the street. They run off, or maybe some kind of hired, kind of like Blackwater kind of team comes, and you run in your house. You have the kids. You want to get out of town. You're trying to get out of town as quickly as possible. So you like go get the kids' phones. You're like, hey, we're going to get out of town. We're going to leave now. Hopefully before things get too bad.
So wait, are you a father or are you the insurgent?
So this is what happens next. In comes one of these bad guys, and a fight goes between the father and this bad guy. Big brute killer guy, tier 1 operative. Guess what? He wins. So there's 2 kids, boy and a girl. They are left, and with this big, huge dude in the room. So they start using what I think the example would be that they have advantage of knowing the land. So they are maneuvering through the house.
How old are these kids? 13?
8 to 13.
Jeez.
Call of Duty playable character age. Come on.
I'm sorry.
And it's pretty violent. And this is like it's a thing.
So it's like Home Alone, only like crazy version.
I don't think it's Home Alone.
Well, I'm just trying to get. There's 8-year-olds fighting a tier 1 operator.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, that's
Less
not gonna,
violent than Home Alone. But
To be
yeah.
clear here, by the way, I would not plan on writing this story. I do not have my notes in front of me. I actually did not know we were talking about Call of Duty before I sat down at this
I
table.
didn't either.
Just by the way, I'm missing some nouns here. I want to be very clear. But I believe she is meant to be one of the main characters that is coming into this story. Okay. But this is like her origin to some degree. So
it'll jump ahead in time a little bit.
Now
then.
this makes sense. All right.
Okay, but it's played out, right? So she and her brother, she takes a screwdriver and like stabs this dude in the leg, right?
Jesus.
And I mean, like this is like a big, scary tier 1 operative, right? And they kind of go through the room until eventually it leads to the end where they do kill him in a scene. I don't want to tell you, but it's like gruesome,
Oh my god.
right?
All right.
And then the kids escape, right? And then they get across thing and they have to go and they come across another. I mean, this is all playable, part. You kind of get to
So, not to interrupt again, you're actually
you're her.
you play as her during the screwdrivering and
Yes.
subsequent murder. Okay.
Yeah. You sneak up, like you sneak through, you sneak around. You're like using these little tunnels to kind of get around from room to room.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, you wanted to campaign your Call of Duty game?
well,
How about this for you, Dan?
I mean,
Here
honestly,
we go.
as grisly as this sounds, at least it'll get a reaction out of me, right? Like playing it won't be boring. Doesn't sound that way.
Your eyebrow will be raised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And so, and then eventually they need to escape out of the town because the town's in trouble, right? These guys have come in to cause trouble. And they're looking to get a gun to get out of town, right? Her and her brother. And so they're sneaking around through a camp. They're in a camp. It's pretty tense. Looks, once again, I said it looks really amazing, but it's interesting development. You know what I mean? I think that shows like where she comes from or what she would fight or what she would do. Do you know what I mean? When you've seen your family killed like
So
that.
is it going to flip? You think she's going to be like the antagonist in the game? Is that like how they're setting things up? Or it's going to be like a war from both sides?
They very much pushed that this was going to be a morally gray game.
Okay.
Just
Got
like
it.
just like World of Warcraft, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it's one of those things that I think they're going to try to make you think about what's going on and who's on what side and, you know, and why.
Okay.
Right? I mean, I think this, like, at least when you watch this scene of this kind of unfolding, right? There's a lot of bad things that happen there to this kid, and you just have to think to yourself, like, if I was 10 and saw this, experienced this, fought for my life, like what decisions do you make? Who do you fight for? Why do you fight against them? Is it reasonable? Is it rational? Does it make sense? Mm-hmm. I mean, I think these are the questions they want you to ask.
The next question I would ask is, does it have a battle royale? Are they saying anything about multiplayer at this point, or is that still lock and key?
I think they're going to have more news on multiplayer later.
Okay. All right.
Let's just put it this way. Yeah. I can't comment.
Yeah, you can't comment? Or
I
yes?
can't comment.
Okay, got it.
I can't comment.
Dan, what did you think about those rumors from Kotaku? What was it, maybe a week and a half ago or so, about Black Ops 5 being slid up 1 year in the development cycle?
I mean, we've been talking about, like, those rumors are the ones entailing no more Sledgehammer, essentially, right?
Well, I don't know if I go that far.
Or maybe
but
they've been
did.
rolled in and it's now going to be sort of a game of service kind of thing? Is that what?
Not quite. So the way that I read it was the idea that Sledgehammer was obviously up next for 2020.
Right.
And they were heavy in development with Raven. That project wasn't coming together too well. So now they said, okay, pull that project out. Let's take Treyarch, move them up a year. They're doing Black Ops 5, but we're taking the campaign that Sledgehammer and Raven were working on, retrofitting that into the Black Ops universe, and that's going to be Black Ops 5's campaign.
Well, I didn't hear that part of it.
Yeah.
I definitely heard the stuff that Treyarch was going to be up next, and I don't know. There's all kinds of rumors swirling around that.
Yeah. It's a weird deal. The idea that, like, I hope that Sledgehammer just doesn't become another support studio. Like, I hope they can keep that 3-year
I think-
rotation, because it seems to be working pretty well.
I don't know. I think at some point the 3-year rotation has got to end, and we've got to get Call of Duty, just Call of Duty.
Right.
And you can do campaigns and stuff that can be DLC or whatever, but we need that just a singular product, and it needs to be a game of service forever.
Especially for Battle Royale.
Sure, that way the Battle Royale fans will get, you know, the updates they deserve and the content they deserve, and then campaign players can get their packs whenever, maybe on an annual basis. Hey, whatever. But as long as it's like, I think it just needs more cohesion.
Yeah.
You can still have your single player campaign in that format. This is a whole, like, we go on for hours.
Well, maybe they're
talking
inching more towards that, though. It's interesting. Like, this would be the biggest collaboration if the campaign is Sledgehammer Raven, multiplayer's Treyarch. Like, the three have never
You're right.
worked together to that
I think
degree
that would
before.
be pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
I mean, that we know. I feel like
That we
all
know.
those studios
They're
have given,
all-
like, I mean, like, they're sharing technology to some bits. They're sharing bits
A lot
and
of tech,
pieces.
yeah.
I mean, so, like, I agree. I mean, but there is, you know, they're managing Call of Duty as a whole group, right? You know, I mean, that's what Activision does to kind of make sure that they have those games when they launch. And Sledgehammer lost, when they lost Michael, you know,
And Glenn was just on the show,
I mean,
yeah.
like, you know, when they lost those two at the head, I mean, Sledgehammer obviously was not going to be as efficient, let's say, as it was. They work in San Francisco, more expensive to build games up there and everything like that. So I mean, it's an interesting change that happened there. So I mean, of course they've moved some things around, I think, to try to get a game that they thought was good. But they've done. I mean, I still wonder. There had to have been a Black Ops 4. I mean, at least I'd heard there's either
They
like some
say
kind of
there
like
wasn't.
like there were co-op campaigns or some kind of there was
I
something.
think it was, yes.
They swear up and down that there was none.
Well, they say not a traditional campaign, but I think you're totally right. It was like a co-op-y, kind of replayable campaign type thing.
Listen, after the Black Ops 3 campaign, I don't blame them. I think that studio does incredible work. I
Yeah.
don't know that we needed.
I mean, maybe we didn't, but I'm just saying that, like, to say that there was nothing there, they're always working on something. To say that
sure.
the studio is not, like, I mean, just like when they're like, hey, we're done with single player, you knew they were coming back with single player, right? I mean,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
they were, these are all things that are being worked on. It's just a question of what case
They're
and
always
what
trying
state
out
they're
new
in
things.
when they
Yeah.
get there. Because I'm sure there's a next Black Ops single player story that's been written and probably been written or at least looked at for
Certainly.
a long while, right?
Certainly.
You know, some kind of arc that they've been working within or working towards. this is big business. They've been doing this for a long time, right? Just because they chose to take it out or move or to change resources or to like, hey, we want to make this battle royale game. Cool. Put all the resources in that. We'll get it done in time. And we'll get it out, right? Like those are choices they make, right?
I think it's a little more panic than that, but yeah, I think you're right.
I tend to not get as like built up like, oh my God, this game's being moved. These guys are working on this. This one's gone from this year. Oh my God. I don't think it's that level of like insanity, at least to the consumer. Yes,
to the consumer, yes.
Yeah, if you are like at that dev team, you're like, what are we doing? What the hell's going on?
Your deadline just moved up a year. I'm sure you're sweating bullets. Yeah.
I'm sure you're sweating bullets, but those things you have a lot of things. It's a question of what it's in the production pipeline. And don't think that Call of Duty doesn't have a huge production pipeline. When they want to put the Eye of Sauron on whatever they're trying to produce, they can produce a lot of content.
They can move resources super hard. Like,
you know what I mean? Like they can, because they own so many studios, and it's a brand that they're going to support. I mean, I know it sounds like it's just kind of crazy big business and there's a lot of heart in it, but I mean, like, it's just production is production. Do you know what I mean? Like it takes a lot to build these games and make these guns and make these sounds and do all the level design and make sure it works and test it. I mean, there's a lot that goes into these things.
Hey, speaking of things they own, they also own Blizzard.
Yeah.
They're the same company. They're merged.
Okay. Yeah, they own Blizzard technically.
Yeah.
Dan raised his eyebrow. You resist that?
That's okay.
It's technically true.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
True.
What is this event you went to, Andy? You went to some Blizzard thing?
Yeah, they invited us out to kind of catch up. They announced the Classic was coming on the 27th.
World of Warcraft Classic, the old school thingy.
They talked about the next 8.2 that's coming to World of Warcraft. They also talked about that this year is the 25th anniversary. Or I'm sorry, 25th anniversary of Warcraft, 15th anniversary of WoW.
Holy cow!
I almost got that wrong. So that's all like coming to a head this year as well. I think the WoW 15th anniversary is this November. Warcraft, Greater Warcraft. I'm talking all the way back to to the original Orcs versus Humans is 25 years. And I don't know what month that is exactly, but they're celebrating all that stuff this year at Blizzard.
And so you went to this event and you interviewed the president of Blizzard.
I did. I had 4 different interviews. That is the one we posted up so far. Yes. It was just talking about Classic and like and 8.2 and the 25th anniversary. I mean, a lot of the anniversary stuff we actually covered when we did our Reforged issue last year. Right. Mm-hmm. We had a great issue where we got a chance to talk about a lot of Blizzard's history. So if you're a Game Informer reader, you were already pretty informed.
We come pre-informed.
Yes. About those topics. But yeah, we got a chance to see some of those things and what's coming down the pipe.
What'd you learn from the president of Blizzard?
Jay is a very nice guy. I've never really spent time talking to him before, and I called him Jay like we're friends. It's just weird calling him Mr. Brack,
which he insists upon.
I'd run into him, I think maybe once or twice, but never really spent a lot of time talking to him. This is the first time I'd sat down to talk with him. They're little 20-minute segments where you kind of they had us all. It was very orchestrated, event. And sat down for 20 minutes. He was I thought it was very fun to talk to him, actually. You could see and could tell that he's taking on a new role. He was a producer on WoW, by the way, for a long time. He did Star Wars Galaxies a long time ago. He's a longtime veteran. He's managed these things. So he's seen, what it takes to maintain something like this at the level of like WoW, which is 15 years this year, right? And now he's the president of Blizzard, right? And that's its own thing. And you could tell he's like challenged by it.
I like that he said that when you asked him. He's like, yeah, it's really challenging, actually. It's like it's nice when somebody so high up can be honest like that.
Yeah, I think, and they've had challenges. They laid off a bunch of people in production, publishing. They're trying to make a lot of games. They're trying to appease a lot of people. I definitely feel, as a WoW player, I definitely feel underserved. I think if I asked any Overwatch player, they would say they feel underserved. I think if I asked a Hearthstone player, they would feel underserved, right? I guess they're
Hearthstone gets pretty good stuff. I don't know about that.
But I think everyone wants content, right? Yeah. Everyone's super content hungry.
And you want to find a really hungry crowd, you go talk to those Diablo 3 fans.
Yeah, Diablo 3 fans. And also, he entered on the stage of the Diablo mobile announcement last year, right? And by the way, I was shocked when I saw like our tweet on our interview and also the things I've seen on our interview comments as well. people are real mad at Blizzard. They want blood, right? Real bad. And I feel I do think it's one of those things that I think it's interesting. Like talking to him, I did ask him other questions than when we printed. One that I asked him was along the lines, I was like, hey, I mean, like some of these servers are dying. Do you know this? His answer I thought was a little kind of, I don't want to paraphrasing at this point, but he was like, oh, I don't think they are. We always have new servers and we always have new things going out. And I was like, well, yes, but I mean, like I've been on like a bunch of servers that slowly die, right? And they're always kind of introducing new ones. I told him I'd wish they'd gone single shard at that time, just because
this is for WoW specifically.
Specifically, it just gets expensive. Like if your team moves, it's a lot of money. Now maybe they want that money, right? Which is fair enough. I guess they're running a business, but like WoW has a lot of really old technology that they're still kind of built around because it's a 15-year-old game that does a bunch of new stuff. I try to brush those questions and rewrap them in different ways in that conversation, but I thought he was fairly honest given his like ability to answer those questions as an executive.
Yeah, and it was nice you could dive in deep, just talking about the watchability of WoW, what they're doing to try and improve esports and everything like that.
Yes, they definitely are, and I think that's an interesting challenge that I thought he had a good answer for. It was just along the lines of, and I think, by the way, this is Blizzard. I think is one of the greatest developers ever. Just that's my own personal opinion, but I think they're top notch, top 10, right?
Top 5.
Top 5. Yeah, okay. I would agree with you. I was trying.
Top 1. I'd go top 3 of all time. I think that's reasonable.
And I think it's interesting as we go into this esports world, like how you make decisions around what things are watchable, not watchable. Are you making decisions around esports rather than to the players that are like your normal players that play the game? And Blizzard is doing a lot of things in the WoW space where they're like trying to make the game feel, for lack of a better term, more esporty. Do you know what I mean? And then when you do that, you're going to get the best of the best who create environments. Like I know people who don't know the game. I mentioned Outlaw Rogues. So in the MDI, people were using Outlaw Rogues and getting like insane
MDI.
MDI. It's the Mythic Dungeon Invitational.
Thank you. Okay.
So it's where teams of 5 run dungeons as fast as they can.
Okay.
With like,
and it's as esportsy as WoW gets.
It's an interesting. They also do Arena.
Okay.
Which is like super hard to follow. He even mentions that. Like Arena is cool. I enjoy watching Arena, but I mean like it's not ready for prime time kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's interesting if you really know the sport, but it is hard to follow. It's all about like running mana out, doing interrupts, line of sighting. I mean, like these are the kind of, a big play was, man, he really line of sighted. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
the crowd goes nuts.
Yeah, and the crowd does go nuts. By the way, when the crowd understands what's going on.
Sure.
But it is not like if I were to be like, hey, you should watch this. This is a really good match.
No.
You would watch it and go, I don't know what happened here.
Yeah.
Right. You'd have no idea. And so this is a thing where it's kind of PvE, which is definitely a thing that WoW is very good at and has been known for. So the MDI is interesting because it's a team versus the dungeon. Right. So that's what makes it interesting. But teams, when they're pros, they like min-max like no one min-maxes. Like essentially, you can't min-max more than a pro, right? Like they're going to find every advantage they can find. And that's what this thing is. It's a race. So in the dungeon, they find every shortcut. They find the best way to pull the fastest to do the most damage. And in this case, in the last one, everyone ran the same comp. So like every team was a druid, a warrior tank, 2 rogues, and either a monk or a death knight.
So things are locked down. We got it.
Which people found that boring.
Yeah.
Right? And then they were looking at at Outlaw Rogue, and they're like, they're doing too much DPS. They need to be nerfed. Everyone was like, they need to be nerfed. But they only need to be nerfed if you're like a pro team and like can run insane comps where they do huge pulls that you can like take advantage of the way that these characters and the tunes work and the way they're designed. So that's a perception that the community has. And perception is this really hard thing that I think all esports have to work with, is that if someone, like even in Dota or anything else, says, that guy's overpowered, that guy's overpowered.
Right.
Right. And then they make game decisions for the whole game world based on those perceptions from esports, which is a hard thing to deal with because you're really only nerfing it for that 1% of the 1% who play the game at that level.
But also the 10% that watches that 1%, it's a mess.
Yeah, that's basically it. But we talked about that, and we talked about it's an interesting talk. He talks about like where they're going to go, how they want to do more things, and they want to look to try to make more games than they've ever made before. He said they have more games in development than they've ever had. I can't test that theory, right? I can't go yes or no, that's true. But I believe him.
And I
Certainly.
liked when you brought up the idea of like, hey, do you feel like you guys have been hurt by your high quality bar standards? That it's stopped games from coming out that maybe should have come out. And he said, yeah, I do actually.
Yeah,
I do think it's hurt us.
He did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's true. I mean, they could be making cool things in these worlds that when people want to play, but I almost think they're like, it's not big enough.
Right. A 9.0 or an 8.75. No, that's not Blizzard. Yeah.
Well, it's just even like, I not that Warcraft Adventures is a good example, but I mean, you know what I mean? Like they used to make like Rock and Roll Racing and Blackthorn and games like that were like kind of fun kind of things. Like, would people be interested in a like World of Warcraft racing game? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I don't know about that specifically, but I would love to see more smaller, fun projects coming from them.
Yeah,
But you seem to kind of poo-poo even that idea. in the
yeah, like
interview,
you could
which is
make like a
bummer.
StarCraft Ghost, like, Metroidvania, right? I mean, like all
idea.
those kind of
Yeah.
things. You know, I mean, all these kind of things that you could do within the world that could be fun, but they aren't big enough, right? They're not enough for the Blizzard to get behind and put their full force behind. You know what I mean? Which I think is a challenge for them.
Yeah, but he did bring up the idea that he wants to do more games and even other genres within existing IP. Like he brought up Overwatch immediately, like, oh, it's a broad IP. You could do a lot of different things in the Overwatch world.
That was definitely a hint that I think he put there, that you could have more single player type stuff, or you could have more different kind of multiplayer games.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of shocked that we haven't seen, I know this is like a bad word to everyone, but like they could make a battle royale. Do you know what I mean? In Overwatch, they could.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Right?
could.
I mean,
They
you
could.
really could. Or even like a mostly royal battle. You know what I mean? Like even if it was like 20 people in one room, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be 100, right?
Right.
You know, like you could do different things that could be more interesting. Or
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like there's just things you could do.
Has a MOBA ever tried a battle royale type mode?
Chess?
Yeah.
yeah, I
I
guess.
mean, I think Battle Right has a battle royale kind of thing.
Does it work at all?
It depends on who you talk to.
Okay, I
I'd
think
say-
there's a
I'd
reason
say-
I haven't heard of it.
I'd say
Okay.
no, but I'm
Yeah.
sure people are always experimenting with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Blizzard has experimented with battle royales too.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
tons of times. Like,
Absolutely. Well, there was
whatever
that posting a while
coalesces.
back where they're trying to hire somebody for, I think it was Overwatch. Maybe they didn't specify, but somebody, well, I think they said they're hiring for somebody with experience designing vehicles for first-person games. It's like one of those, like, what could they possibly be doing with that?
People always read into those hiring.
What else do we
descriptions a
got,
lot.
man?
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, I guess so.
World of Warcraft Classic.
Yeah,
You've been playing
coming
it?
August. Yeah, the beta. I'm playing the beta.
Okay.
So it is what it is, but like it's level capped at 30, but it is the classic WoW experience.
And you seem to be in the camp of no one's going to want to go back to this, or at least you had no interest in going back to it.
I was not expecting to find it as appealing as I did. That's for sure.
Oh, you're enjoying it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, what about it?
Just like, okay, where to even begin? Let's start with
boy.
let's start with itemization. So in WoW Classic, when you get a new piece of loot, it actually feels like you've become up to 10 times more powerful than you were off a single piece of gear. In modern WoW, you don't feel that. It's just numbers, really. But in
And
old
why-
school WoW,
why-
like you get a
why
new
the
sword
change?
and all of a sudden you're just shredding stuff that was giving you trouble. Because it's just like, that's how the power levels were. Like you get a dungeon sword and you go back out into the overworld and you start chopping up wolves. There's no scaling on the areas. So you're chopping up garbage wolves to make leather gear for yourself. And it really feels like you're way more powerful because you are.
Does it feel satisfying, or does it just feel nostalgic?
That part feels satisfying.
Okay.
The power disparity that you get, you actually feel stronger in the world because, again, there's no scaling areas, so you're actually getting markedly stronger with those, with gear and stuff like that. So that element is crazy cool. There's some not good elements we can talk about too, like certainly. Other than that, not nostalgia stuff. Social things are cool right now. That could fade with time, but it actually is really cool to like be walking around a zone, having priests run by and buff you, druids run by and buff you. That's not a thing anymore. Talking to people to form together to do groups because the zones are designed in a fashion where if like you pull one null, you're gonna get 7. So you might want to group up to do that quest. You'll go way faster. And even if it's just like a high and buy, that's way more interaction than you have normally in regular WoW today.
Is this enticing, Andy?
And then after that, there's the PvP element of like, I said this, ironically, there is more, it feels like there's more meaningful Alliance and Horde interactions here than there are in Battle for Azeroth, which should theoretically be the biggest battle between Horde Alliance ever, right? I know, and it's not all good. You got level 30s camping you and level, I'm going to get sick of that pretty soon. But it's fun to be able to call upon like your guys and their guys and watch them battle it out in the graveyard, It's like a bunch of Alliance and Horde actually fighting. When's the last time I saw that outside of a
That
battleground?
didn't happen in Azeroth?
I mean, it does, but it's just like, all right, I'm doing like a quest thing, a little like collect 5 egg thing. Somebody will show up, kill you, and leave.
Okay.
And this, it actually gets a big faction war going in the zone. Like
You learn to hate the other side again.
people
with
are
this.
like, you'll start to recognize the same people,
Right.
which never happens now because everything's like you phase out and you'll never see that person again. Here, you're talking to the same people, interacting with the same people on both sides.
That's interesting.
You start to recognize them. It's like, oh, that stupid shaman's back in the graveyard again. He's calling his buddies. Let's get our group out here. And all right, you organize, they organize. Everybody knows each other's names. You start to be like, I ran a dungeon with this guy yesterday. I saw him outside in Stormwind eating a biscuit. I'm going to invite him again because we had a good time. You don't have that experience now when it's just like you queue up for a dungeon, you go through the motions, you do it, and you're done.
This
Now,
sounds
granted,
beautiful.
within your guilds, your own communities, it's a different interaction, but it's interesting
The
to talk
global
to
community
randoms
has
again.
definitely been lost in the modern game.
Right.
Instancing everything.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even. I mean, you can be in the same city and not see your friends.
Exactly right.
Right, in the modern game, because they tried to scale it and make it very accessible. Right,
And they have.
and so that's why when he talks about in the modern game, if you go to a zone, like if you're level 112, everything's level 112, right? So that it's easy for you to do. And this is scaling they did to kind of fix like old leveling to some degree. But in the original game, you'd be like, oh, I'm 112. What's over here? Oh my God. Like these are 120 and they just like own you. And then you're like, oh man, I gotta get my stuff back. You know, and like it just kind of creates those environments. Or you find, like you said, you find a friend, you're like, I want to go in there where the 120s are. I got a quest. Let's go in there. Let's kill
Right.
them together. Let's do that.
I'm
right?
going to have to find some people to do this with. I'm going to have to talk to somebody.
Yeah, or you'll just even like you'll find 5 other people who are standing in front of that thing going like, I can't get in there, and like, well, should we get together and go in there? I mean, it's just that's the experience that the old game
Right.
had because the challenges were built in, right? Like they were static.
It was, it's just so bizarre even looking at the old design of like Dead Mines, which I have a lot of nostalgia for, the old Dead Mines. Going back through it, and a lot of that nostalgia was pretty unwarranted. The encounters are not nearly as interesting as I remember them. They're literally all just put the tank in front and DPS everything down. There's no mechanics to speak of that are interesting.
Sure.
So that was, and there's so much more trash that I remember. It's like, oh my God, there's just pull after pull of just goblins and bandits and goblins and bandits. So many of them. Like you're in there for a while. The dungeons are much longer. And of course, if your tank leaves in one of those dungeons, you're kind of screwed. There's no dungeon fighter to pick up another one. You might get lucky. You might get another one. Who knows? Most, might have the warlock pet tank the rest of the dungeon. Who knows? You got to get scrappy.
There's something magical about going back, though.
But yeah, some of the like just getting down into Dead Mines. You don't queue up for it. Just getting down
You
there
gotta
was
get
actually
there. Yeah,
you gotta get your group outside because like the whole thing is set up like an old school overworld EverQuest dungeon where there's like different mini bosses in different areas. Nobody ever goes to these areas. I didn't even know how these people existed anymore. It's like there's a named enemy down there in the undead pit of Dead Mines. What is this? I don't even. Whoa. Like that was very interesting. So from a nostalgia standpoint, it was really interesting going back and doing that again. But I think dungeon design has definitely come a long way, and I think that's going to hold true for a lot of the vanilla encounters. That they're simply not as mechanically or feature-wise challenging or interesting. They're gear checks, they're resist checks of putting your tank in front and having your DPS do their job hard. That's all it is.
And so many people know so much more now than they
yeah.
did back then. Like I remember when I played WoW when it came out, I remember like being in dungeons and like looking at people and going like, assist the tank. And go like, what?
Like, how do I do that?
And you're like, assist the tank. We all want to kill one target. One target? You know what I mean? Like it was,
And
that
just
was
clicking the buttons, man. Yeah.
That was the conversation
Today's-
where now
yeah.
everyone knows like, don't stand in fire. Like I mean, like all these things that
Yeah.
were like at that time
Yeah.
made Ragnaros very hard to defeat. Now are very simple.
Those fights
kinda
are going
like-
to be super easy for today's MMO and gamer crowd.
What I'm trying to figure out is, does it feel a little bit like StarCraft Remastered, which I was very excited to see and play, and then I played about 3 games, and like, I'm good. I remember what
'cause
that
that's-
game's like.
I mean, I was like, I'll play it for like 10 levels and see what happens. But then
Yeah.
I got into it, and I'm almost at the current cap, and I'm loving the faction wars, and I'm
So it's more the novelty.
crafting my own gear. I really
Yeah.
love the feeling of that. It's good. It appeals to that aspect of like, I'm living out in a shack in the woods, farming my own food, and I don't need anybody. I'm just hanging out here. But if I meet
WarCraft Rust.
yeah, it's got that element to it where like I get excited. I'm like, oh God, yeah, I can craft some green bracers. and like today, it's just like I log on. It's like, okay, I got an epic new weapon. It's like a million more DPS. Well, yeah, it's just a couple more numbers when I hit something. It just doesn't feel as epic as those for that reason, because the power levels just aren't they don't give you that kind of thing. It just feels like it's more rugged and rustic, and yeah, it's not. It's certainly far from perfect, but it's just so fun and interesting to play something like that doesn't have the same kind of convenience and rules.
Yeah.
Like as a rogue, it's super. I gotta craft my own poisons. I have to make inventory space for those poisons. They only have 40 charges, so every time a poison triggers, one of those charges is consumed, and they only last 30 minutes. So I have to carry around a basic, an alchemy lab with me to whatever I want to do.
And warlocks have to go fill up their bags full of shards.
Soul stones.
And like,
God,
I mean,
yeah.
there's a bunch of stuff, and all the classes are not very balanced
And
very well.
and I think
Old
that's
talent trees. Like,
that works in its benefit, actually, that the classes are not balanced. The classes are different, whereas in current WoW, we've been pushing back for years, actually, against homogenization of the classes, where any DPS is as good as another DPS, any tank's as good as any other tank, any healer is as good as any healer. So just having that flavor that other classes actually do different things is super interesting. Like, oh, we got a priest, we get this cool buff, or, that doesn't exist in the same form anymore, although they've been pushing back against that after they went hard into it. I don't know, was it Panda or Cataclysm? Which I don't know which expansion it was, but they went, at a certain point, they were like, we don't want everybody to be, discriminated against in a group, so we'll just have everybody be able to do everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. It's the Final Fantasy 6 to Final Fantasy 7 change with materia. So can you import your character like backward? No. Okay.
No
so it's just
way.
starting completely fresh.
So if you don't know about vanilla WoW, leveling in vanilla World of Warcraft is, you could go a whole day and not even get a level.
Yeah.
It's very possible, depending on how you do things. Sure, efficiency experts are going to min-max that whole experience in the grind, but it is a serious challenge to go from 1 to 60 and getting your mount and all these other things.
And it's like, I've got friends playing it as well, and they're like, I got a gold. I'm up to a gold.
You feel like a very rich. You can't even buy your skills when you level up. Like in current WoW, you just get your skills when you level.
Yeah.
But in this, you have to go to your trainer. You have to purchase skills, so you have to make monetary decisions about what abilities you're going to get because they're expensive.
That's fun. Do you have time for this, Andy? Do you have time for this in your life? You're going to go back and play?
Oh, for classic?
Yeah.
I played at some at the event I was at. We had level 40 characters and we were running around, and it's like, oh, I need to go do that. And I start the walk, right? To get to the content I wanted to get to. And it's funny because I'd start walking and get most of the way there, and they'd be like, okay, your next thing you got to do is up. And I'd be like, all right, well, I just leveled up. So I just walked around most of the day, to tell you the truth.
And here's another thing. That old school quest design,
Yeah.
it is so much worse than anything today. Like, you get quests where it's like, walk there, then walk back, then walk somewhere else. Like, you can spend a whole hour just ferrying a crate. And that doesn't feel good.
And they're also not the spawns aren't on any kind of
Right.
They have a spawn timer.
And so
They spawn after they've been dead after a certain amount of time. Where in the modern game, there's 5 people in the area killing these guys. They're dying at this rate. Spawn them at this rate, right? So that
so that everyone can get their stuff. And this one, you could be waiting around. Like, we had to form a queue. There's this thing called the Defias Messenger that you need to kill for a quest that triggers the dungeon quest. Everybody wants it because you get a blue piece of gear at the end, and it's probably your first blue, and it's really, really big. So you got to kill this guy to get his letter or whatever, and he spawns in a certain place in this town. We had 7 people just lined up.
There's screenshots on the Reddit of
awesome.
20 people all lined up waiting in line.
Yep.
Hope we
my
get through here
turn's up.
soon.
Good old days are back again. Here we go.
So there's plenty of stuff that isn't great.
Yeah.
But it's just it's
But people
so
are enjoying that,
fascinating.
by the way. People are enjoying the stupid lines and the waiting. I think it is the antithesis of what the current game has, and I think people are reveling in the challenge, reveling in the sense of accomplishment. You know, right now, I mean, if you want to do a profession, I mean,
Why bother?
Go to the AH, buy a bunch of these things, spam this button, you're done.
Yeah.
Right? It's the professions now are, which is amazing because they have all these profession leads that say they're going to make them better than they've ever been.
And they've been saying that for
and it's been
5
this.
years.
They're literally, the professions have been like this.
And they've been worthless.
On just
Not the leads, the professions.
the professions, yeah. But so the professions have been just bad, right? Except for 1 or 2. But in this game, if you take the time and you want to spend the time to spend the weekend,
and it's time. Let
Right.
me tell you, professions are no joke.
to build this one thing you want to build, and you got to travel all these places and buy things that flux, that in the modern game you'd be like, oh, I need 700 of those, no big deal. In this case, you go, I need more gold. I need a gold. You know what I mean? To buy these.
Yeah.
And so it's a different experience. So there's a certain like excitement in making those things,
totally.
even though they're not as good. It's just the effort.
Yeah.
The getting there is more fun.
I think, like I said, I think the end game is not going to impress, especially since it will never change or advance ostensibly because it's already solved and done. But the journey itself is something else. Like it's just it's so crazy to be like having to consider how I'm going to pull a group of enemies. Like today, if you see a bunch of green enemies, it's just like they're gone. They're toast. You're going to annihilate them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But back then, like if you even get one more ad, it's like, oh God, I got to hit all my cooldowns in the right order, or I'm going to die. If you get two, well, you better have a gameplay because you're dead. You're just dead.
Good times coming out in August.
Yeah.
How much does it cost? How does it work?
It's you get it with your regular WoW sub. So there's
Really?
yeah.
Yeah,
That's smart.
So a lot of people are going to play it. It brings up some interesting things in that, like, I feel like the future of this is probably that we're going to get, like, as soon as you start to kind of like wean off like whatever the current WoW thing is, they're going to be like, oh, Burning Crusade. You know what I mean?
Do you think they'll really do that?
I think so. Yeah.
It would be smart, but
that's
they
gonna be
can't.
nuts.
They won't change it. I think that they said somewhere else that like the classic server will say this classic server. It'll be a Burning Crusade server, and you may have the option to move your guy over, maybe. But like they'll keep classic.
And then we can all live in the past forever. This is amazing.
Well,
we never have to grow old at all.
By the way, in the modern game, when you sit in a group and you start talking to each other, someone will say, "This is my favorite expansion." Then someone will say, "This is their favorite expansion." Right?
Yeah.
Like it's a classic conversation.
And
Yeah.
by the way, those two expansions are always going to be the Burning Crusade of Wrath of the Lich King. I don't think anybody's ever picked another
But now
one
you have
over
to
those.
choose which one to live in
No,
forever.
more and more people these days are picking Pandaria. Actually,
Pandaria is like I think Pandaria was underappreciated, and I think a lot of people do really like that one. I've started to come around on it too, but nowhere in comparison to the.
I thought it was interesting when we were visiting Blizzard how the artist said that Pandaria was the peak of WarCraft art in their mind. Like for the WarCraft 3 Reforged designs, they went back and looked at the art for Pandaria because like it was still
They were looking at that
kind of-
cinematic.
Yeah, because it was
explicitly.
still a little abstract and chunky and old Warcraft while still looking realistic enough. It was like that perfect balancing point, they said, which is interesting. Hey, we've talked about this for a while. You guys want to clap out of here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
why not?
Bye.
Bye. Hey, Matt Miller.
Yo.
And Kyle Hilliard.
Hi.
This is where the show gets funny, you guys, because we got two silly games, but pretty good games. First, let's talk about Void Bastards.
All
here.
right.
Matt Miller, this is a first-person shooter. Dare I call it a rogue light or like?
I think it borrows from roguelites. It's pretty light in its roguelighting.
Okay.
But it's definitely got some of that. I mean, its chief inspirations are games like BioShock or going a little further back, System Shock 2.
Right, including like the founder of Blue Manchu.
Yeah.
He worked on those
he's
old games.
connected to that stuff, and so he brings some of that knowledge of making those kinds of games. But here, it's done as a procedurally generated game so you have this kind of extended replay value.
Hang on, Kyle actually took his headphones in disgust when you said the words procedurally generated.
Yeah, I'm out. Yeah,
You said Douglas Adams in your review. I was in. You said procedurally generated. I got back out.
I think they do their procedural generation and their roguelite elements in a way that are not overbearing. The procedural generation of the different ships is done in such a way so that it feels pretty natural to be moving through these spaces, and it feels like they are somewhat crafted, even though it's not totally crafted.
Yeah.
But it's a good game. The idea is that you're a prisoner aboard a spaceship that's gotten stuck in a nebula, and the crew has gone crazy or died, and so you get rehydrated because in this weird future, in order to save space, all the prisoners are dehydrated into little potato chip bag sized.
Good. That's some fun sci-fi.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
follow-up to the 1960s Batman film, right?
Oh, that's right. We're all like was it the city council or in the power?
Yeah. So you get rehydrated. You're one of these prisoners, and the ship, wanting to get out of the nebula, sends you out on some tasks to go to some of the other derelict ships that have gotten stuck in this nebula, get the stuff you need to get out of the nebula. But it all, to the Douglas Adams point, it's all kind of like bureaucratic nonsense. It's stuff like, well, we need to laminate your ID card before we can authorize you to interact with the ship.
Right.
And then when you get your laminate working, then it's that the computer won't
take your information until you get the proper, like it's that kind of stuff.
Right. And it's all kind of guided along with narration from the voice who was in the Stanley Parable.
Yeah.
One of the greatest games of all time.
And so there's this kind of funny but nihilistic vibe that's running through the whole thing. That's reinforced by the idea that you as this prisoner really don't matter at all. And you're going to die really quick. And then they're just going to take all the stuff that you've done, go back to the original ship, rehydrate another prisoner, and keep going.
That's fun. It's a perfect conceit for that type of game.
So you run out into these ships, and there's this combination of like survival management where you need to make sure you have enough fuel and food, and that you're avoiding pirate ships and space whales and stuff like that.
Literally space whales?
Literally space whales.
Good job.
If you go to a node that has a space whale and you don't have anything to protect you, it just eats you and you die. And then you start the thing over. But you keep all your parts and all the stuff you've collected. Once you get to a ship, you get to see a map of it, and you also get a general sense of what kind of mutated enemies are on board. And so you can actually plan what weapons you bring and what special tools you bring. You can plan your route through the ship. Like, okay, if I go to the helm, I can download location information about where all the supplies are on board the ship, but maybe the helm isn't turned on because the generator isn't working yet. So maybe I need to go to the generator first and then go to the helm. And then I got to go to the FTL area to get some fuel. So you're kind of figuring all that stuff out on the fly. So there's this kind of strategy element. There's a stealth element where you can be really careful with how you're moving around the ships and try to avoid getting detected. There's a shooting element where once you do get detected, you're using all these weird weaponry.
Yeah, like kitty bots.
Yeah.
And the shotgun is actually like a stapler.
Yes,
that shoots at
exactly.
staples, like weird stuff like that.
And so you're shooting stuff, and eventually you're getting all these parts and materials that you're bringing back to a workbench on board your little kind of skiff. And you're building up your character. So you're simultaneously working towards like mission critical goals that are going to move the story, such as it is, forward.
Yeah.
But you're also, eventually you have a locator thing that's helping you find the parts that, like, I want to have a better armor set, or I want to have a better stapler, or whatever.
And I feel like the lead that we haven't discussed yet, for the audio listeners, you can't see this game, but you should go look at a trailer for Void Bastards. I was just thinking now, but the best way to describe it, it's like, okay, you could go cel-shaded kind of Borderlands, but like, it was like an HD Chex Quest. It's just got like a cartoon style, and everything's kind of pixel deep.
It's it is very specifically trying to be a comic book look, right? I mean, there's some of the cutscenes are set up as paneled comic books. And some of the explosions when you get into action scenes literally have like words coming off of them, like kaboom, like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So there is that look. The audio, it's all sort of like not so subtle jabs at modern culture. Like for instance, there's the one of the enemy types of these mutated people that are on board these ships are juvies. Or Juves or something like that, and they're
Gwaltneys.
And they're literally just running around trying to shock you with like really terrible bad words they're shouting at you.
We'll get
like
to Trover Saves the
profanity.
Universe later, but we should stay focused on Void Bastards.
And so you have characters like that. You have characters who are bespectacled old women supervisors who are pissed off at you for being late for your shift.
It's fun.
Like just stuff like that.
Yeah. You gave it an 8. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, so you really enjoyed it.
I think it's really good. It has a tendency towards, once you get into the swing of things, I think you can maybe have it could get tedious after many hours, but I think the game kind of recognizes that it's got its own lifespan on it, and once you're starting to get to that point, it knows that it's time to like, okay, it's time to move on, time to be done with this thing, and there is a discrete ending, sort of. The other thing, by the way, I want to mention about this game, it has difficulty settings, which is something I really like in a roguelike or a roguelite. A lot of games like that tend to lean a little bit too far towards just, if I'm hardcore, I'm going to go into this thing and like, I'm going to devote my every waking moment to winning this, which is great. I'm glad that those games are out there, but I like it when these games offer a way for people who don't feel that way about roguelites to get in. And this game does. You can you can sort of move everything down to the easy difficulty settings and
just explore a fun sci-fi world
and have fun. Yeah. And not feel like it's this constant pressure of like, am I going to survive? How much time am I going to have wasted? Like that kind of stuff.
Right. Super cool. Yeah, I guess I talked to the sound designer for this game at GDC. We have a video up on GameInformer.com or on a YouTube channel if you want to learn about the history of the game's development a little bit. But apparently it was originally a pretty serious immersive sim, still procedurally generated. But it was originally called like False Light or Ghost Armada. And then the art style came in and it's like, well, all right, let's go ahead and open this up. And then they also had Cara Ellison, who's a writer on Dream. She's also writing Vampire the Masquerade 2. And then she came in and did some writing and stuff. And I guess that just changed the overall tone. And I'm so happy whenever a game does that. F it, let's just go goofy. It's so satisfying. Like
I think here it works really well.
Yeah.
I'm not always a fan of that kind of stuff, but I think here it works and matches well with what the gameplay is, right?
Yeah.
The idea that you don't get attached to the prisoners. You almost start to adopt the same attitude that the ship does, which is that like these aren't people, they're just tools that I'm going to use to forward my own agenda a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is weird and kind of fun and creepy and
yeah.
yeah.
Void Bastards on
right.
Steam and Xbox One right now.
I think it's also on Mac.
Okay.
Yeah, it's out. You can go check it out. It's a cool game.
It's out. You can go check it out. Is that how you end every one of your reviews?
That's the last sentence I try to get in at the end of every review.
All right. Are you ready for this segue?
Yes,
Okay.
I am really excited about this segue, actually.
So the sound designer for Void Bastards was also the sound designer for Beginner's Guide, which was co-created with Davey Wreden, who also worked on Stanley Parable with William Pugh, who worked on accounting with Justin Roiland. Bam! Game industry, baby! Trover saves the universe. Here we go. A game by Justin Roiland, as they say on the title screen.
Yeah.
Front and center.
Yeah, and I mean, it feels like a Justin Roiland
Joint?
game. Yeah, it does. I mean, it's Rick and Morty are not anywhere in the game, but I mean, it feels like a universe that Rick and Morty could travel to.
Like it feels like one of the places they could go in one of the advertisement episodes.
Totally, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, now you're a Rick and Morty fan, right, Mel?
Yeah.
Now, so how would you imagine the tone of this game? Just from that knowledge.
I think that I would expect a lot of non sequiturs, and
Not a lot of non sequiturs, actually.
okay,
Yeah.
The tone, I played like the first hour of it, and the tone of the dialogue, I've only seen one episode of Rick and Morty, and I'm curious if this is in both. But for Trover Saves the Universe, the dialogue is like, it feels like kids putting on a puppet show.
Yeah.
Or something, or a play, where it's a lot of starting and stopping. Like, actually, you have to go over there now. Like that type of weird
sure.
rhythm, which is fun to hear in a video game.
It's improvisational throughout, which is insane for a video game. You don't really get improv in a video game. And like,
was it literally improv?
No, I mean, to a certain degree, I think, but like a lot of the dialogue is like opt-in, where you can just sit around and listen to someone talk for a long time. And it hits a point where it's like, all right, we need to cover these beats. Just go talk for a while. And it's like, it's consistently hilarious. Like, it's all really funny.
You were laughing out loud at your desk.
Yeah.
And not in a way where you're looking around the room like, when are people going to notice me? Like, you were genuinely enjoying this.
And there's a lot of like, that improvisational style fits so well because like, it straddles this line really well, which I think even like his other stuff does too, like Rick and Morty, where it's like, it's really silly. It does not take itself seriously at all. It's very fourth wall breaking, but at the same time, there is a thought out story and universe. There are real motivations for the antagonist, like sympathetic motivations that you discover partway through the game.
Really?
Yeah, Trover actually grows as a person through the course of the game. You learn a lot about his history in the flesh world level where you meet his old roommate.
That's fun. Like even in the beginning, you talk about like tape breaking the fourth wall constantly. Like when you first meet Trover, you're basically playing a guy in a chair.
You're
because
a chairorpian.
It's also compatible in VR, so they need you to be stationary there, and you're warping around. And so the Trover character comes in, and then he's just like, "I'm feeling exhausted. Can you just control me?" There's like no explanation for why you're controlling this dude running around. It's just a lot of like, you get the double jump power up, and he's like, "All right, I'm double jumping now. Here I go, double jump." Like it's very.
They break. I like the way they break the fourth wall because it's not particularly clever. Just occasionally he'd be like, "Wait a second, I didn't think there was this kind of game." Like you run into a puzzle, he's like, "Wait, we're doing puzzles now? Come on!"
I love that puzzle joke.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, you got
very
that
specific.
far?
Yeah. Because it's like, well,
I don't even want to
there's-
spoil it to a certain degree, but
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. Should we? It's
think
early
so.
on.
It's so early. It's
There
just
are
the idea of-
there are great jokes that I won't spoil for sure.
Okay.
But there's this early joke where you're like you come across this puzzle and you have to like press buttons to turn on lights and stuff. And it's like you learn pretty quickly that it's an unsolvable puzzle. Like I did it for a long time. You cannot complete that puzzle. And Trover just complains and complains and complains. And then eventually he's just like, come back down here, and he just breaks through the wall and you guys
Yeah.
continue forward with
Well,
the
I love
game.
it because like as you're doing it, like there's dialogue constantly in this game. So as you're doing that puzzle for a while, he's like, what do we do? Do we check online? Should we just check online for this thing? He's like, why do developers put this in here? This isn't fun. Who thinks this is fun? It's like, oh no, I'm going to solve this puzzle.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a logic. He's like, just come to here. I'm going to bust through this thing. And we'll go over with it.
Which and that kind of stuff happens all the time. Like it just occasionally he'll just refer to it as a game. And there's also great stuff where like Roiland does like 70% of the voices in the game, and you meet a character, and if you hang around and wait for a while and talk to him, Trover will be like, well, you sound a lot like the Abstainers from earlier, and then he goes on a tirade about the game's budget and stuff like that. Like it's really genuinely hilarious. It's very funny. And I gave it a 7.75, and the thing that sort of holds it back is that the gameplay it's not even necessarily bad. I wouldn't say it's actively bad or anything. It's just like really baseline and unspectacular. It's just a way to get you to the next bit of dialogue. The combat is just like you're hitting square a bunch and it works fine.
It
You
feels
just
like
jump.
it feels like a licensed platformer level of gameplay. Like never bad. It's fine enough level design, but it's just so basic.
Yeah, but the writing is so good. It's just like a conduit to get you to the next bit of writing, And so it's like the gameplay just sort of feels functional in that way, but like it's so funny, and even as a story, like I think it wraps up well, and it has a really satisfying ending, and it has. The bigger jokes that I don't want to spoil are jokes about playing video games. Like there's a lot of jokes based around like how you react to things or what you decide to do in a moment. It's like you're sent on this mission and what you do is just the whole level is just a joke about the idea of how video games work.
But I like it that at least from what I've played so far, it's not like they're like, Legend of Zelda reference over here, that type of stuff. It's just about the concept of video games.
It's not referential. It's not like, hey, remember this from Zelda? It's like, hey, let's think about the concept of a player receiving a mission and completing it and what that means in the context of a story. Like how you approach that mission. And it's all like a joke. Like either way you go, you end up with a funny bit of dialogue. And there's even stuff that I like where there's a couple of opportunities to do like yes or no questions.
Yeah.
And in one instance, like you learn that the stakes have really been raised and everything's going to be dangerous. And you go to your boss, and Trover's like, hey man, the stakes are really high right now. We got to complete this mission. And the boss asks, he's like, is this true? Have the stakes been raised? And you can say no. And he's like, Trover, this guy says the stakes are fine. There's nothing wrong. And it doesn't interrupt the story or the gameplay at all. It's just it's just funny. It's like it's just a joke about the idea of like pointless yes or no questions in a narrative in a video game.
Does the game, like the narrative, one of the things that works in Rick and Morty is the idea that you have all this absurdist humor that's juxtaposed against these occasional moments of like pathos.
Yeah.
Do you did they go for any of that here, or?
They do. Yeah.
Okay.
Not quite as like emotionally as they do in Rick and Morty, because there are moments of like, whoa, I can't believe that we're talking about this in Rick and Morty.
Right.
But like I said, there are moments where Trover comes to grips with things about his life and his past that are satisfying and interesting, all while maintaining that sort of absurdism and sort of improvisational style.
Sure.
I was impressed with how it managed to tell an engaging story while still making just constant jokes.
Yeah. I had a very surreal experience this morning while playing this game a little bit, because I was listening to the Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend episode of the podcast with Bob Newhart.
Good episode.
90-year-old Bob Newhart.
Wait a
Very
second,
good.
you were listening to that while you played Trover?
No, like in the build up to and after playing Trover.
Okay.
And having Bob Newhart style of comedy juxtaposed with Trover Saves the Universe level of comedy, where it's like a certain part with Trover, not knowing Rick and Morty, it's like, are these jokes? This is just aggression. This is just a guy screaming, hey, f*** you, what's going on over here? Oh, f*** you over here. I'm going to beat you with a f***ing stick. You
Those
beat
are the
my f***ing
enemies.
friend.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess some of this is making me laugh, but it is overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like that tone is aggressive.
The enemies are they don't repeat themselves a lot, but they are, which I thought was funny, because like the thing about Roiland is like he just has one of those voices where it's just he can almost say anything and it's like it'll make you laugh. And just having like an enemy character be like, you killed my friend, I'm gonna get you, like it's just weird and humorous.
I wish at the beginning you had the choice of having curse words on or off.
Yeah.
I wish I would have kept them off.
Oh, I think it just bleeps.
Oh, does it?
F-bombs, I
oh,
think.
that sucks.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind then.
That might be funny too, though.
Yeah,
I
Like, you
think
just
so.
have endless bleeps for.
Is it
There's a
not
lot.
impactful for like if you're playing that game for a longer stretch of just like this tone is a lot. It's just everyone
I mean,
screaming.
that tone that you're talking about specifically is like almost exclusively just enemies that you run into, and like. And
I don't know, man.
You know,
There's also
really?
like the guy where he's like, hey,
I have played the whole game and you haven't.
That's
so let's
true.
like, keep
That's
that
true.
in mind.
I think there's plenty of like NPC characters too that just never stop screaming at you. And even like Trover screaming.
There's the pop-up guy who maybe you ran into.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's his whole point though. Like that's the gag about him is how in your face he will literally interrupt you while you're jumping and kill you. And that's the joke, you know?
I know, but even like Trover, you know, there's like that character early on where he's like the other chair guy, and then Trover's like, let's just fucking kill him, let's just fucking kill him, and starts like swinging
Well,
his
that says a lot
lightsaber at
about
him and
you
stuff.
because you're controlling Trover. You can just walk away from that guy.
Well, I was shouting at the TV, let's just fucking kill him, let's just
That's
fucking
the
kill
other.
him.
That's the other thing I
That's
like
the
about
way
the
you
game.
talked about all your games.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
the other sort of interesting thing about the game is almost every NPC in the game, to a certain degree, not everyone, but most of them, you can just kill them if you want. Like, and that just. That comes back later near the end of the game. But in that situation where that Cherorpian approaches you and like you can kill him or you can just walk away. Like you can do whatever you want. You know?
Right. It is weird playing like a VR focused game on a flat TV, however you want to phrase that, because it's like I still like it, but it becomes bizarre. Like there's so many objects I can interact with for seemingly no reason. But I understand in VR it would be fun to throw this baseball across the room and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't prefer playing it one way or the other. Like I played a bunch in both ways. I think it's totally functional as just like a flat game. Playing it in VR, like you get a power later where you can control stuff by aiming with your head, which is like a little easier, I guess. But like using the right control stick is totally functional.
I like the first time you go and like meet the Council of the Abstainers.
Yeah,
they have a cool line where like it's a long walkway there, and they're like, "You'll want to come look at us. Keep walking down the walkway. We're really cool to look at." Especially in virtual reality. It's like really hype it up. I was like, okay, they're just a bunch of big dudes.
I like that kind of fourth wall breaking, or it's just like it's not super winky. It's just like hey, you're playing a game, you know? Like,
yeah, for sure. You gave it a what score?
7.75.
Trover Saves the Universe, PlayStation 4 and
coming to PC in a few days. I think it's like a week difference or something like that.
How long is it?
Ooh, it's not super long. I want to say like maybe like 5 or 6 hours or something like that.
Okay.
And there are some. I did go back and replay a couple levels just to get like different bits of dialogue and stuff like that. Like the branches are pretty extensive in terms of like the choices you make because it has a good system where like it works well where you can even walk away in the middle of a conversation and it does a good job of being like, oh, okay, you're walking away. All right, I'll get back to you later. And then when you walk back to them, they'll be like, oh, where were we? And it feels pretty natural. Like they do a good job with that. So.
Right on. Miller, there were a couple of announcements.
I'm ready.
Wait, do you want
night.
to tease real quick that we're talking with Roiland at the end of this podcast?
Yeah, Kyle.
You forgot because you didn't do
Well,
the
we already
interview.
set it up, but it's a good point to remind people that you can stay tuned and learn about the creation of this game.
Yeah.
It's a good chat.
Yeah, I think
promise?
I think so. I don't know.
Okay, pretty high pitched.
I think I did a great job.
I love it. I love that kind of confidence. Miller, there were announcements on
ready.
Tuesday. Do you like the letters H or S and M?
I feel like this is a trick question. To what end are
Just
your
name one of those letters, Miller.
H?
Pokemon Home was announced on Tuesday night.
Oh, I chose wrong.
Yeah, you're welcome to change it at any moment.
Well, we're gonna talk about it eventually.
I know,
anyway,
we'll talk
right?
about all this stuff. Kyle, there was a series of just weird little bitty Pokemon announcements on Tuesday. Basically like the mobile side
bunch
of the
of
Pokemon
Caterpies.
company. Yes. So Pokemon Home, let's focus on that thing. That is basically just like the 3DS Pokemon Bank.
Yeah.
Which is fun because it's been carrying forward every generation now. So you can put all your Pokemon that you capture into this online bank, and now they're bringing it to phones. Yeah. That's basically Pokemon
Yeah,
Home?
I mean it's nice, and it also like it'll feed in from everything. Excuse me. So like it'll be like the 3DS games, you know, whatever that history is with Pokemon Bank, but then also Pokemon Go and Let's Go. Like it'll just basically bring all your Pokemon under one umbrella, which is cool.
Sure, that seems fine. You
So
can look at them.
You can catch them all. Is that the
You
idea?
can finally do it, man.
Well, this is after they've been caught. You can't
You can
catch them again.
and then put them on your phone, I guess.
Also, now Pokemon Masters. This is the M part.
Yeah.
This is maybe the most intriguing thing.
Are all
for
of
me.
these Pokemon?
Yeah, there's a lot
Yeah,
of
they're all
Pokemon
Pokemon
announcements.
games. It was a trick.
This
you
is a
sucker.
trick.
Yeah, it was absolutely a trick. But they're all fascinating things. Pokemon Master. So this is DNA partnering with the Pokemon Company. DNA. They made Mario Run, right? I believe.
I think they were involved with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always weird with those kind of things, but yeah, it's a
Right.
partnership.
Right. And this, they showed like a little bit of gameplay, but it seems like the idea is, hey, it's a bunch of the trainers and gym leaders from previous Pokemon games, the actual Nintendo games, now they're going to be in this standalone mobile game. And I've never seen them cross the streams that directly of having like characters from the Nintendo games on just the mobile stuff.
Yeah, because even
Is this
Pokemon
blowing your mind?
It's interesting, I think,
Yeah.
just to further tear down the wall between Nintendo and what Pokemon Company does on mobile.
Yeah, and they showed specifically, which was smart, like a bunch of Brock and Misty, but it's not clear like what the game is. It's like a turn-based combat game on your phone.
It looked like that, but I wonder if it's going to be a gacha game.
Yeah.
Where you're just going to be putting in coins, and then it'll be like, all right, congratulations, you get this
probably.
turd from Pokemon Pearl. Here we go, you know?
And because of the history of all the trainers and all the games, that's like the
Right.
perfect, like, oh, you want this guy from Pokemon X?
Which
You
it's
gotta
weird if you
dump
make
coins
them,
into it.
and this is all theoretical, but if you're making a Pokemon gacha game, seems like you have a bunch of things to collect already. But to like zoom out even
I don't know
further,
what you're
and be like,
talking about.
now you're collecting humans. That's weird. Pokemon Sleep is the weirdest one.
Yeah. And well, Pokemon Plus, right?
What
Pokemon
is-
Go Plus.
Can you explain what this is, Kyle?
Not fully. It's like it's another application that will gamify sleeping, I
Miller,
guess.
tell us when you're very intrigued.
Yeah.
You guys lost me like 5 minutes ago. I'm
mean,
serious. Like
This is
this
like
stuff.
the
It's-
weird.
Oh, sorry. Oh, Kyle. An application.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you
you.
for interrupting for that. But I mean, like, it's that weird. I like it conceptually. The idea of like
Sleeping?
I love sleeping. But I was thinking about it today. I was like, so wait, will you make more progress if you sleep more? Is that the idea? Like, you're supposed to put your phone or the Pokemon Go Plus in the bed with you, and it's like a sleep monitor. It's kind of like a what is it? The step tracker. Mm-hmm. It's like that, but like for sleeping.
So like that like is actively not what you should do with electronics, by the way.
Oh, put them in bed with you?
Yes. It makes you
probably
not
fine.
sleep well.
I guess.
Well, I guess if you're looking at it, but if you're just cuddling it like
It's
a
like
weirdo.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a
That's
little
just weird.
It's like a little device that you just like put under your pillow, I guess. But like,
Yeah.
the conceptual idea of like making progress in a game by sleeping better and having like more regular sleep is like interesting.
But those people that like reflexively toss and turn, they're going to be screwed.
Yeah.
They're going to...
It's like the people who don't go outside are struggling with Pokemon Go, right?
Yeah, they've been trying to play Boktai for 14 years now. Wait, so what is it? So is it powering up your Pokemon Go? Or it's just like...
I think it's a standalone thing. Like, I don't know how directly connected it's Pokemon Go. They were vague in this live
Is there
stream.
just going to be like an experience bar and a Snorlax? Like, hey, congratulations, here we go.
I guess so. It's just that weird way of like trying to integrate.
The game industry is fun, Miller.
I
Come
mean,
on.
I know
This
Miller's
stuff's
shaking his
popping out
head,
of
but
nowhere.
like I like the idea of integrating game applications into sort of real life thing. Like Pokemon
Yes.
Go got me outside and walking a lot more.
Right,
If this can regulate sleep in a way that gamifies it and it's like got a fun Pokemon attachment to it, it could be
If I
interesting.
can get experience for telling my family that I love them, I might be interested.
Yeah.
Frankly.
But only for that.
Yeah.
Only if
Yeah.
it's going to get you another Pokemon.
Yeah. I mean, it's very easy to be dismissive of like Pokemon
Hey,
Sleep, a name
just-
on its own is just like, what is this?
Just
But
to
I
be
mean,
clear,
yeah.
I'm not dismissing something like Pokemon Go. I actually think that while it's not my thing,
Yeah.
I totally get why that's a really intriguing idea and exciting, and I love the phenomenon around it of all these people who were, getting out and exploring and that kind of stuff. There's something about the idea that I don't know. Like that we can't get away from our digital lives even when we go and lay our head on a pillow.
Yeah, but
that
like-
is troubling to me.
You're getting experience though. You know what I mean? Like that number's getting bigger.
Yeah.
You know?
That's interesting. I feel like this could go either way for you, Miller, because you're a very healthy person. You're a very digitally detached person. I think those two are connected. But now it's like, well, it's promoting healthy sleep, so you should like it.
But is it? Do we know that?
Oh yeah, for
it's
sure.
not going to give you more experience for tossing and turning.
Yeah,
all night.
I mean it's that sort of Nintendo lifestyle initiative of like We Fit. It's like sort
Yeah.
of a branch of that of like trying to make you live a better life. I mean, what if there was like a Destiny tie-in? What if you could get like some
The ghost would tell you a
I think
bedtime
that's what
story.
I'm saying. I don't think it's not me scoffing at Pokemon. I get
Coughing.
that a lot of people dig that stuff, or any other property, whether it was Destiny or it was Mario or it was World of Warcraft or
Yeah.
whatever. There's just something that like kind of feels icky to me about
Yeah, all right.
let's invade the one space.
Let's
that we-
gamify sleep.
Let's gamify sleep. That's just like I don't I don't know, but I will withhold judgment
Sure.
in its entirety until because we don't really understand
Take
what
a
this
nap
thing
with
is.
Pokemon.
Until you review it for us.
That's right. I would be the greatest reviewer for that game.
Also, they're making
There are
it-
these little creatures, I think. They're called Pokemon.
That's like a long-term thing now. It's like if I just go take a nap in the sort of fourth floor conference room, it's like, oh, I'm just reviewing Pokemon Sleep. You didn't hear about that new update? I'm writing something about it in my sleep.
You can call BS on that. Also, they're making Detective Pikachu for Switch. Unclear if it's a port or sequel or what that is exactly.
It seems leaning sequel, but yeah, it's unclear. Yeah.
I wonder if they were just holding off to see if the movie was a flop or not before they announced it.
It's kind of dumb that the 3DS game just wasn't ported to Switch with the launch of the movie, right? I mean, should have been there.
Yeah. Also weird they didn't show any assets or anything for this, right?
Yeah, they had like one screenshot or something. It was very quick.
The
but-
3DS game, I think, looked really good.
Yeah.
And so just an HD version of that.
You have to be
that's fine.
asleep to see the screenshots for that
Oh,
one.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
You only see it in your dreams.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us. Do you guys want to clap? Actually, no. No clap.
No
Let's go straight to
clapping?
emails.
All right.
Here we go. And welcome back to the Informer Show. We have Serial Vasquez
I'm back.
returning.
I'll keep coming, as they say.
As they all say. That was JFK, wasn't it?
He said, "I'll keep coming not because it is easy, but because it is hard."
Ladies and gentlemen, Serial Vasquez.
Already off the rails.
Jeff Archiafava.
Hey.
And we have Jeff Cork.
JF. Okay. Come on, guys.
We're here to answer people's emails that they sent into podcastinginformer.com. They've been it's a back pile, as they say. We're getting gang charged with these emails because there's so many to go through because we didn't do them last week.
You were sweating bees.
Yeah.
You were going through there and you said, I got hundreds of these things.
Oh, what
to
do
go
I do
through."
with all of them? And you know what we do with them?
What?
Any email sent to podcastinginformer.com, I read them.
Yep.
If I like it, I copy it and paste it, and then we read them, and then we choose our absolute favorite and honor where that person's from by putting a pin literally in their hometown. So you think this is just an abstract map, but you need to run for cover.
I thought it was an abstract map. Baby.
Podcast at GameInformer.com. All thoughts, questions, pieces of feedback. Do you like Serial's jokes? Do you not like Serial's jokes? Everything under the sun, send it to
Nude
podcast.
pics?
As long as it
Whatever.
makes the show better.
Don't send those emails my way. I don't want to know.
okay.
No.
Leo, what should we do during this email section? What's fun?
What's fun to do during this email section?
Yeah, do you have any advice for us during this section?
Fortnite's pretty big. Do some of those dances.
Okay. Yeah. Ooh, Corky go. Here we go. Matt from Michigan. Thank you for the input, Leo. You're killing it.
That was what I had written down since you told me you were going to ask me that 3 weeks ago.
Tell me what happens in Call of Duty Modern Warfare's campaign, because apparently I spring that on everybody too. Matt from Michigan writes in, and he says, hey, just want to let you guys know that I tried watching the last episode of the Game Informer show on my 3DS as instructed. I made it as far as the video's webpage, and the YouTube app crashed my system. I tried this 3 times with no success. Looks like somebody got it up and running, but a lot of people reported that it is technically impossible to watch this show on a 3DS like we wanted them to do for last week's show.
Oh, well.
Also, somebody tweeted a picture from trying to watch it on a Vita, and when you try to watch the show on a Vita on YouTube, there's a notification that said, you must pay for this content.
Oh,
Nice.
Where's that money going?
Yeah.
Where'd that money go?
Yeah.
But I did look up the analytics. Do you want to see where people watched this episode?
I'll hear
Jeff
them.
Cork? Great. On the PlayStation, I assume PlayStation 3 or 4, 922 viewers.
Okay.
Xbox, 535. Switch, 92 viewers, which is very impressive.
Okay.
The Nintendo Wii, how many people watched the GI show last week on the Nintendo Wii?
A Nintendo Wii 4.
12.
1,000.
1,000. No, 6 people. If you're one of those 6 people, write into podcastinginformer.com because I want to know what your life is like.
What's your deal?
What is your deal? Take us on a tour of your house. Write a paragraph about your family, your loved ones, your
How
dating
nasty
success.
is it?
Yeah, how nasty that house.
I'm just kidding. Having a fun time.
Okay, here we go. Hi, guys. Guy from Brazil here. Hello.
Hi.
How's he spell Guy?
G-U-I.
Graphical user
Gui?
interface.
No, it's Guy because it's short for Guillerme. He told us the whole
right.
story. Since the talks about launch titles for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox, whatever they call it, have started, I was wondering, looking back now, what was the best launch game for this beloved console? The NES. The options are... Oh, I think he's taking out the obvious choice. So he says, not Super Mario Brothers, but for NES, Excite Bike, Ice Climber, or Duck Hunt. What's the best launch game?
Duck Hunt.
It's definitely the most fun.
I think Excite Bike.
You love
It's
that.
programmable.
Yeah, you love that you can create your own tracks in that.
Yeah, but I think Duck Hunt is what sold the NES
Yes.
for so many people.
Absolutely.
But it was not fun.
And their dads, who should know better on how
I
duck
don't know.
hunting actually works.
I don't know from
but-
video games, but I can shoot a gun.
Exactly. Super
That's right.
Nintendo, if you remove Mario World, we have F-Zero or Pilot Wings.
Pilot Wings.
F-Zero.
Oh, what do you like about Pilot Wings?
It's fun. You get to explore, and it's not violent except for the last part where you shoot a robot. But
And you
Except
watch
for the
them
part where you're
bleed.
violent.
I don't think I've ever played Pilot Wings on
And he
Super
yells,
Nintendo.
please don't kill me as you're shooting him.
Yeah?
yep, I have feelings.
Okay, PlayStation 1, Battle Arena Toshinden, Rayman, or Ridge Racer.
Wow, Toshinden.
Toshinden.
Yeah.
Rayman.
No,
I've never... What is Battle Arena Toshinden? What's that
it's
like?
a fighting game. It's super fun.
Is it actually fun?
It was at the time.
Okay.
It's the best
Was it
title
on our-
that was
was it
available
on
at
our
the launch of
fighting
the
list?
PlayStation. No. I don't know that I would put either of those other games on any
I don't think
list.
Rayman was on the list either, but I think Rayman's on the PlayStation Classic.
Plastic?
Plastic?
The
PlayStation
PlayStation
Plastic.
Plastic.
Yeah.
I think I played it. I think it holds up really well. I think the
Fun
art-
fact: it's made out of plastic as well.
Great. PS2. We're going with SSX, Street Fighter EX3, Tekken Tag Tournament, or Time Splitters.
That's a
Now that's a
Time Splitters.
Tag tournament. But Time Splitters is also accepted.
that's really tough.
He's really doing a lot of culling because there was a lot. There was more stuff available.
Yeah,
for
what
those
like
launches.
Orphan? I'm trying to remember like, what other crap.
Summoners.
Yeah, Summoners.
Was Fantavision available at launch?
I don't know. God, this is killing me. SSX. Or I'd probably give it to
SSX.
SSX. Yeah, I
game's
love
fun.
Time Splitters, but I feel like as much as I played the first one, like Time Splitters 2 is where it's like,
Who
this is
would you
legit.
pick?
What's that?
Kaori, right?
I'm also a Kaori guy. Hell yeah. What about you guys?
I like snowboarding.
All right. Xbox 360, Call of Duty 2, Gun, Need for Speed Most Wanted, Perfect Dark Zero, or Tony Hawk's American Wasteland. Shout out Leo, he says.
Call of Duty 2.
Probably Call of Duty. Well, yeah, Call
Tony
of
Hawk's
Duty 2.
American Wasteland.
Yeah, was it good?
Is that at launch?
Was it actually good or was it like Leo good?
If you look back, everything sucked. Okay, so you
That
gotta
is true.
Actually,
doing
no,
that.
correction. Tony Hawk still plays better than any game that comes out these days.
Okay,
Ooh.
great. Howdy Informant, says Luke from Illinois.
You
know
can't
it.
prove it.
You love it. What? He says Super Meat Boy Forever, Duke Nukem Forever, Doom Eternal, Bioshock Infinite, Res Infinite, Halo Infinite, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Is Infinite and its many synonyms the laziest and most overused subtitle for game sequels?
64.
Well, that's not
DS.
fair. I still feel like a new game could come out and put 64 at the end and it would still gain traction. Like they should have called it Ukulele 64, right?
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah.
DS, yeah. Even the Infinite thing, I would include like Diablo Immortal in that. You know, it's just like that at this point, especially
The ultimate.
Everlasting.
yeah, with like the living game trend. I feel like especially not that any of these games are maybe Halo Infinite, but it's like that seems like the way to go, right?
The Last of Us Part Infinite.
Yeah. That's perfect. He doesn't like it because he says you can't make a game after that. What do you make after the eternal, the infinite, the all-knowing, all-seeing game?
+1.
+1. Mason Cowell from Chattanooga, Tennessee. He says, hey, Ben and guests. Recently, I've started collecting art books for some of my favorite games, with Horizon Zero Dawn and Breath of the Wild being two highlights so far. Do you have any recommendations for other excellent art books? Yes. The Incredibles art book, I think, is...
Yeah. Just art.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Does it come in a book these days?
Yeah.
Oh, check it
get
out.
new art
Easiest way to digest it.
That sounds pretty good.
We're gonna buy a painting.
Come
Give me a break.
on.
See, I thought we were just sticking to games, but if we're going outside of games, I
Yeah.
really like the Venture Brothers art book that recently got released.
What's good about that?
So it's as much of an art book as it is like a history of the show. So it'll go like episode by episode. Here's how we did. Here's sort of the challenges of every episode, and here's who we cast and how this. It's basically like a behind the scenes thing of the series, but it's also an art book that has a lot of big images that are
That's
pretty.
not art, though. That doesn't count as art.
No,
I
that's
think
good.
Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is technically an art book because it's got the spooky pictures.
I would
Every
recommend
Clifford the Big Red Dog book is an art book.
Where's Waldo?
Oh, the
There
ultimate
you
art
go.
book.
That's true.
I-
Infinite.
I feel we are getting closer and closer to what he meant by art book.
Matt wrote in saying like, hey, you're talking about 3D games playing on the 3DS and how none of them were really great and didn't really use 3D too well. he brings up a game. Jeff, I'm curious if you played this version, which is Zen Pinball 3D by Zen Studios on the 3DS. He says it's awesome in 3D.
Yeah, I tried it a little.
Could you see the ball? It seems like it's so tiny that to like pop up.
No, you couldn't see the ball. That's why.
I'm saying in
people didn't
3D.
talk
Did
about
it really have an impact on you?
No, but I will accept his premise that was probably the best use of 3D.
Over 3D Land? Are you out of your GD gourd?
I don't even remember 3D Land. I didn't play a lot of 3DS games. But the idea of a 3D pinball table probably works.
All right. Let's see. John from Chandler, Arizona, he says, hey, if you could pick one game character from any franchise to be the most obscure / terrible idea for Smash Brothers, for a Smash Brothers character, who would it be?
Oh, it's got to be obscure?
No, just like the
terrible?
worst character to include in Smash Brothers, realistically here.
Uh-huh.
What do you think?
I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Well, you should. The video game characters aren't people.
The blob from Inside.
That's good. That's good.
EO from Dota 2.
Why was he like?
It's just a glowing ball
Oh.
that tethers to other heroes and is supposed to be like a support hero. And all he does is fire these little balls at people.
See, I was thinking that way too, of like some abstract thing, like the cursor in Super Hexagon or something. But I kind of like that, like some weird, funky thing. I think I'd be more on board for. I really thought about this question a lot. Mm-hmm. It honestly would be some Fire Emblem idiot. Like number
again
8.
That's
yeah, it's just I think the most disappointing thing would just be that would
Dark Marth.
Yes, exactly. Honestly,
there should be an options in the menu to hide all Fire Emblem characters. You're like, check that, thank you.
Except for Robin, the best.
Yeah.
All right, this one's a real thinker. Chris from California. From California, Maryland. What are you doing, Maryland? Get your head out of your ass. He says, recently the AV Club had a Q&A about what's the best 3-episode run of any television show. Mm-hmm. This got me wondering, what do you think would be the best 3-game run of any series? I hate to answer the question right from the gate, but I would say my answer would be Link to the Past, Link's Awakening, and Ocarina of Time. Best 2D action-adventure, incredible portable game, then capped it off by the best game of all time. You could go series by series, or just your overall take. The 3-game run, I think, is a really interesting challenge.
I think his examples are really solid.
They really are solid. But speaking of solid, do you have to include Twin Snakes?
I'm
that
wondering
throws
about
off
that. Yeah.
like the Metal Gear
You
1,
do
2,
have
3.
to.
Because even going to Metal Gear Solid 2, Twin Snakes 3, solid run, fine run. I understand it's Silicon Knights that made Twin Snakes, but what are you going to do? Because at first I was like, oh, of course, Galaxy 2, 3D Land. That's impossible to beat, the game that Jeff doesn't even remember. But in between Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, there's Mario Brothers Wii, which will really stink up that curve. Yuck, you can't
How about
win.
just Super Mario Brothers 1, 2, and 3?
Well, you have the last levels.
Oh,
And which 2 is it? Is it?
yeah, which 2 is
The
it?
good one.
The American one?
Yeah.
It was
But
called
then,
Doki
they
Doki Panic.
They
in
released Super
Japan.
Mario Brothers 2 in between.
Oh, I hate everyone. Leo, help me.
Tony Hawk 456, or what would you go with?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, or Thug 2, Thaw, Project 8.
Oh, interesting. There we go. There's an answer. Final Fantasy 789.
You know what? I'm gonna change it to Tony
Oh.
Hawk's 2, 3, 4. Final
Great.
answer.
Love it. Hey, Mike from Burbank, California,
Maryland.
Maryland, says, hello, Ben and crew. On the most recent episode of the GI Show, Ben mentioned that he had been listening to old episodes of the show, talking about the 3DS stuff.
That's you.
Well, I too have been listening to some episodes from a few years back and came across something rather interesting.
Uh-oh.
During the email section of the September 10th, 2015 episode, Ben makes a $10 bet with a certain Jeff Cork
Uh-oh. Wait. Is
That-
it my favor?
that within 5 years, Ben will have a child. I said, quote, I don't have to love the kid. I just have to crank one out technically to win this bet.
Oh, so I won because you don't.
Well, it's not quite 5 years. This was September 10th, 2015.
You are having a lot of unprotected sexual intercourse.
As you've been
I
candid
hear.
about throughout the office.
Fresh. I still got time. I remember being very confident in that
Could
bet
you
at the
though?
time.
Yeah.
Do you have time?
I don't
you
know.
need at
yeah,
least
you got to
9
add
months?
9 months to it.
Okay, well, let's do this math. September 15th. So piece of cake. September 10th, 2015. I have over a year
I need to get this $10.
Yeah. Please, I'll give you $10
Listen,
if you help me win
it
this
has
bet.
to happen now.
Yeah.
I don't care where your life's at, but I need my $10.
We'll name the child Burbank.
Maryland. Jonah Dickhouse, which is a real name, from Memphis, Tennessee, Maryland, says, "Hey, I just rewatched the video."
I don't doubt you. I wasn't going to tell
All
you.
right, good. I just rewatched the video from the Lego Force Awakens cover story. Jeff Cork, we were on that, where they tackled the Han Solo death scene, saying how Lego characters don't actually die, and they didn't know at the time if Han Solo would come back. Apparently, the developer on the game, Phil Gray, said, quote, "The Emperor could come back for all we know." He says it's almost like they did know. I bet they didn't, but still.
I bet they didn't.
Yeah, that's a funny idea that
That
he
is
called
funny.
that shot that long ago.
Yeah.
Um,
I like that
Tyler.
Was there a question there?
No, it's just a fun thing. I like people digging through the
I
past.
think
and-
Fair enough.
Stuff like that makes the show better.
It does. Thank you,
You
Jeff
ask for
Cork.
it.
Yeah.
She-
Leo,
get it.
can you give us on a graph how much better the show is after that question?
A verbal graph.
Yeah, what does it sound like?
There.
Please, Leo, time for the graph.
That was a very positive sound, I think.
Tyler writes in and says, "Hey guys, so I just got done listening to your guys' thoughts on the God of War documentary, and I gotta say, you're all some pessimistic MFers." No, he says, "Folks, we all understand that game development is hard, but what I took away from this documentary was the passion and hard work will pay off. Look at what they accomplished. They took a renowned franchise and rebooted the mechanics and reinvented Kratos as a character. They delivered a 25 to 30 hour single-player AAA game with no add-ons or expansion packs. This game was made by folks who love making games. I guess I'm tired of hearing the same narrative over and over about how game development's hell. Some of these devs have been in the game long enough to know if it is or it isn't for them. But they stick around because, for starters, it is their passion, and two, the payoff can be really worth it." You watched that thing, right, Serial?
Yeah.
Do you think that that was a reasonable conclusion? Is that, yeah, it's hell, but look at what we accomplished, so it's all worth it?
I don't think that, you can have both of those observations of like, hey, God of War is like, they made a really good thing, right?
Yeah.
But it also took a heavy toll on them. Like, I don't think you can come away from that documentary without feeling some sort of compassion to how difficult it was for them to set aside time for this game, like in a way that heavily impacted like their lives.
Do you think, I always think back to this interview with Amy Hennig, where she was talking about Uncharted and how tough it was to develop the first 3 games. And she's like, honestly, I don't think it was worth it. Like for her, like the toll it took on her life. Like I wonder what percentage of Sony Santa Monica would you say is worth it to go through that level of difficulty to create a new God of War?
I would say most of the people working at that studio would say
Yeah.
it's worth it. I think it's just a lot of people don't always necessarily have the most objective view of what they're doing. You know, like I think
They know not what they do.
Yeah. I think it's very easy to say like, yeah, of course it's worth it, right? But in the long view, like how you don't know what necessarily you're missing out, when you're working that number of hours consecutively and you're sort of stressing your body out. I think you need to have like a larger view, and maybe it's a retrospect thing. Like Amy Hennig, right, was able to make that evaluation after the fact. I'd be curious to see what people think about, several years down the road about whether or not that was worth it.
Do you guys think it's kind of funny how like presidents get gray hair when they're in the office? Isn't that weird? Like, I always associate that idea of like stress turns your hair gray. I was like, yeah, probably a little bit in theory, but it's like there's very tangible proof of presidents just popping gray hair.
Or maybe their stylists, while they're campaigning, have them dye their hair so they look younger and more vital.
That's more
interesting.
believable.
And when they're
That's
elected, they're like,
definitely
F
more
it.
believable.
That could be. Would you ever dye your hair?
I plan on coming to work one day with completely black hair,
be
and part of
sweet.
my forehead will be black too because I do it at home and I'm not good
With
at
a
it.
Sharpie, you just do
Sharpie.
each strand.
Yeah. I honestly have thought about what if I did dye my hair black and didn't make a reference to it,
Refuse
like,
to acknowledge it, like you're very like sensitive about it.
yeah, I'm a young guy now. I'm a man to be respected.
Do you think any
as a
men in the
peer.
office dye their hair?
In our office?
Yeah.
Joe.
He dyes it bald.
Disappearing ink.
That's a peach.
Dyes it with disappearing ink.
Thank you, Jabbar. Sarah McBride from Dublin, Ireland. She says.
Oh, this is just a string of profanity. Never mind.
Oh, I can read this on air. She says, first off, I just realized I'm an idiot and I've emailed you about 5 times, but I sent it to GameInformerPodcast@GameInformer.com because I'm not a very clever girl. So please tell me and the people one more time where to send our questions, games, ideas, anything that makes the show better.
Podcast at GameInformer.com, I hope.
Correct. Yep. So she watched the Raising Kratos documentary as well, the God of War documentary. and said, do you think the stress shown in this documentary and the news reports about all the difficult work environments in the game industry right now will decrease the interest in working in the video game design field?
No, because people think it won't be like that for me.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Like people wanting to get into the NFL, and it's like, I won't be. My neck won't break in half.
Either from the perspective of like that won't happen to me, or I can take it, you know, or it's worth it because I'll be putting in so many hours that eventually I get to a position where like I'll be the person basically assigning people ridiculous hours.
Right. Wes Bates from Woodland, California, Maryland. He says, hello, Ben and GI crew. Let's take a walk down memory lane. We've answered this one before, but it's a good evergreen one. GI has had some fantastic cover art over the magazine's history. Thank you. Some of my most recent favorites include Spider-Man, Mega Man 11, Monster Hunter World, Jeff Cork joined, and Witcher 3.
You say that like he made the cover.
Well,
it was
no,
worth
but
it.
he
It was
wrote
a
the
lot
cover
of
story.
work.
Yeah. But I digress. Which Game Informer covers are your favorites over the years?
Lego Marvel Superheroes. I love that cover.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's great.
Is Wolverine
Hulk.
up in there? Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
Did you like the Ultimate Alliance 3 cover?
No,
Okay.
I thought it looked bad. I liked the Far Cry 3 cover. Four.
Far Cry 4 is one of my
It was
favorite
very
covers of all
cool
time.
cover.
Of just like the sand art.
Yeah.
Like the Bioshock Infinite ones a lot.
Oh, come on. That's such a lame answer, Serial.
Oh, Super Mario World is my favorite game of all time. It's such a lame answer too, but it's true. It's like one of the best games ever. That and the Horizon one I think is really, really good.
Yeah,
That was a
one
good
is
one.
Great. That's
a
great
much better answer. You did better.
I don't know if I like the Witcher 3 one that much. Where it's just them on the horse, like walking down to the town. But they had that super early. When they pitched us doing a cover, like maybe even a year before we did it, I remember that was like what they pitched as the cover.
Yeah.
That's a really good one too.
All right, they know what they're doing.
Gotta go with Dreams. Guys, made in Dreams.
That
an
was
actual,
very cool. That's a good point.
actual cover.
It's an oldie, but a goodie. I still think the Bully cover is my favorite. I love it. Like for that era too, it's so clean and simple. It's just them looking at each other, and there's like this string of text that says the most controversial game of all time. The answer was no, it wasn't.
What is the most controversial game of all time?
What do you think it is?
Fortnite, probably. It's very controversial. People talk about it and disagree about it a lot.
The most controversial game of all time.
All time.
Like politically controversial.
Like controversial.
Some-
What is whatever you look
Controversial.
up controversial in the dictionary.
I'm not the first king of controversy. What's that acronym? Anyways. I don't know. Some Mortal
Grand Theft
Kombat?
Auto?
Yeah, it probably is. Which one do you think had peak controversy?
The hot coffee.
Yeah,
So San Andreas.
Yeah.
You're right.
because it's like not even part of the actual game.
That doesn't matter with controversy.
That's true.
Yeah, that was a weird saga, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Sure was.
Yeah, that was weird.
Can we get
Speaking
some
of
cricket
segues,
sound
You can
effects?
edit more salads in there, Leo. That'd be cool.
Leo, do you have any recommendations for this email segment?
Start reading them upside down.
Okay, great. Connor from Norfolk, Virginia, Maryland here. Love the show and people on it. Which controller button have you pressed the most in your life? Think back through every console and game and give your best guess. Is it the NES A button because of all the Mario you played? Maybe it's the original Xbox black or white button. My answer is the PS4 R2 button. First-person shooter games are my favorite, with Overwatch as my most played game of all time. Between Overwatch, Battle Royales, and Destiny, the R2 button has to be the one I've pressed the most. Keyboard and mouse inputs can count, but only consider how many times you press the key in the context of gaming.
It probably would still be the right mouse key. Or mouse click.
The right. Because of
click.
Dota?
Yeah.
Like move here crap?
Hell yeah. Do you have any idea how many times you click that fucking thing in one match?
I guess.
A ton.
You probably over-click it 1,000 times.
Can we go back
100%.
to?
That doesn't mean I didn't click it a whole lot.
Can we go
Yeah.
back to the one about looking back at what you've done with your life and whether, in
Yeah.
hindsight, you regret it or not?
Yeah, what do you think?
That was for
What?
Cyril.
Those are all well spent. What are you talking about?
We're gelling like mud today.
How many hours have you played, Cyril?
3,400.
3,400.
How many did you enjoy?
About half of them.
Okay, that's fine.
But the other two were the other half was very rewarding.
Okay, in its own way. All right, Jeff, and what's this effing button? Name the button.
He makes a good case for the triggers.
Yeah, I think triggers.
Otherwise, is it the X button on?
It might be like
PS4?
PS1 X button for me. Just thinking about like the amount of RPGs I play in that system, and like, all right, next line, here we go, big boy. Or like battles and stuff. I'll go PS1 X button. Yeah. Wow. John from Eleva, Wisconsin. It's in Eleva, Wisconsin. He says, very important question. If your body was the video game controller of your life,
Connect.
what would your belly button do?
Oh, that's the resync.
Yeah.
You get a paper clip.
Yep.
Put it in there.
Exactly. Also, if you're lying on your back, it can work as a little sink, too. Andrew B. from Detroit. He says, hey, Ben and crew. When I watched The Observer new gameplay today, it reminded me of the PS2 game Lifeline. For most of the demo, you're moving from camera to camera, interacting with the environment to help an AI control a character. I don't know about you guys, but I liked Lifeline. And I was wondering why you haven't seen someone try to do that kind of thing again. Voice recognition is way better than it was back in the day, so a new game would be less frustrating.
Well, with the exception of the voice stuff, Republic is basically that.
Oh, that's a
where
good
you're
point.
Guiding a character through cameras and stuff.
Yeah, and they've ported that game to everything. I'm sure they've ported it to Alexa at some point, just didn't tell anybody. What was Lifeline? I never played it. You like talking to a mic and guided some character around the world?
Yeah, it was like a series of screens basically where you tell them to go to a particular place and they show up on that screen.
Yeah. Yeah, you think that there'd be phone games that would incorporate voice more than they do. It rarely comes up, though.
I don't think people want to be talking to someone on the subway by looking at their screen and telling someone as opposed to doing this.
Yeah, could be.
That'd be weird if you were talking into a phone like that.
Yeah, no one wants to hear that.
Go left.
Oh, boy.
Here we go.
What is this?
Buckle up, boys.
Oh, no, I'm skipping that one.
You can't skip it.
Oh, okay. All right. Miltoast writes in, my name is Miltoast and I live in Greece. I've been listening to the show for about 7 months now. Is it weird that I literally never have seen your guys' faces? I know you have the show in video form, but I really don't like video podcasts. I love listening to the podcast while I drive to work, walk my dog, and doing garden work. Now that I think about it, I never want to see your faces. Because I'll be disappointed that maybe your lovely voices don't match with your likely pretty faces. I think all of our voices match pretty well. I think you get a rough idea. Jeffham's about 3'8". Jeff Cork looks like an ent. Let's see.
The good young one.
Yeah, the hot young buck.
The thick black hair. Jet black.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Serial-
Oscar Isaac, obviously.
Right, and Cyril has a tiger tattoo on his face. So yeah, use your imagination, Milton.
Yeah, he can make the tail wag.
By squinting real hard.
Jack,
Why'd you skip that question?
I don't know. It's fine. Jack from Adelaide, South Australia, wants to know, Leo, if we're going to see another Who's Winning E3 this year.
No, but it's going to be daily videos.
Of some sort of thing.
Of some sort. And me and Jeff Cork are going to work on them together. It's going to be fun.
But I recommend people go back and watch that. Just to try
Why
to
can't
remember
I
what
do
E3
it,
was
Leo?
like.
We
You're
want
not
to be
invited.
good.
What?
Damn.
Just kidding.
Hey, do you guys get this? Adam from Woodinville, Washington. The subject line...
You made up all of these locations today, haven't you?
The subject line said her story.
Yes.
And then in the body of the email, it just said, Pets Cop?
Pets cop.
Does anybody understand what that means?
Petscop?
Pets Cop. One word.
Petscop? How's it spelled?
Like Pets Cop.
Like RoboCop, but with pets.
Yeah, Serial, do you want to be on Google Patrol for
Sure,
Pets
yeah.
Cop over there?
Pets
Safe
cop.
search off.
Let's see. Jay Krug from
Catalog.
Stephanie Doctor.
God damn it, you are making these up.
Okay,
Look,
do you guys want to... Okay,
Yeah.
here's what I found about
Petscop.
Petscop. Petscop is a horror... It's a horror web series published on the YouTube channel of the same name. It presents itself
I
as
made
a
you
let's
watch
play
this.
of a fictional game called Petscop, supposedly made in 1997 for the PlayStation. Its creator or creators are unknown, but it is generally attributed as the same person who acts as the series' protagonist and narrator, who is referred to as Paul. Paul traverses each layer of the game, gradually uncovering its darker past, which is in some way related to the life of himself or his family.
That's right. Do you remember this now, Cork?
Yeah.
You went down that rabbit hole and it was like this fictional game. It's super fun kind of mystery on the internet about whether or not this thing's real. That was fun. So yeah, we're on board for that.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm into it. That someone has just given like part of their home address. That's why you were tripping up on it. It's like 10
also,
wait a second.
Yeah, I know.
Apartment.
It's Stephanie Drive apartment something, but I saw it and was like, doctor appointment. Anyways, Jay Krug writes in and says, oh, they're from...
Oh, dear.
Okay, they're from Cary, North Carolina. Ignore the address. He says, hey, after watching and really enjoying the Raising Kratos documentary, it reminded me that God of War E3 showing might just be the best E3 game showing ever. It had everything you'd want, some live gameplay, some cinematics, and a heaping helping of pure spectacle. It showed me what the game is all about, had a moving live music performance, and was just plain fun. What do you think is the best E3 single game showing ever? P.S. I've been a subscriber since 1995 and have grown up with GI. Just wanted to say thanks. Isn't that nice?
It's very sweet.
Yeah. Best game showing ever.
My answer's maybe a little rough because it probably would be the most I've ever been excited for a game after seeing it at E3 was probably BioShock Infinite.
Oh, okay.
But that demo wasn't necessarily super representative of what that game ended up being.
Liars. Yeah.
But I do remember coming away from that being super blown away by it.
I think Cyberpunk is a real contender.
I was going
know
to
it's
say
so
that,
recent.
and that's exactly why I didn't want to say it, because it feels like it's cheating. It's too recent in our minds. But everyone was going crazy after seeing that.
And I know it was frustrating to not have seen that demo, but there was something kind of fun about just relying on word of mouth and like listening to podcasts. I would listen to other podcasts, not just this one, about just trying to describe what was in that demo, you know? Leo, you weren't at E3 last year. Was that fun or was it just frustrating? Just show us the effing gameplay.
It was a little frustrating.
Yeah.
If it sounded cool, I was jealous.
Yeah, and then you finally got to see it, but I feel like that's probably generated so much more buzz for that game because of that frustrating release schedule.
Leo,
Definitely.
When you saw that, were you like, oh yeah, this is totally cool, or were you a little disappointed?
It was fine.
Okay.
Interesting. Thomas from Stockton, California. This is inspired by Game of Thrones, by the way. Which, by the way, let's just, without spoilers, where'd you all land on the Game of Thrones finale?
It was all right.
On the podcast a while back, we both said it's probably going to be about a 7 out of 10 for the end of the series. And I feel like, it's about that.
We called it. We're very good.
Yeah, we're very good and smart. And now we get to correctly say that we called it. But
Yeah.
I enjoyed that episode a lot. I'm still shocked by the internet and its nitpickiness in general. I get it. I get a lot of the little points. But in general, like, you still got to give it up for that show's production.
Yeah,
Like,
the
what?
people online, they have a tendency to want stuff to be good.
Oh,
So
interesting.
you just got to let that go.
Just let it go. You would agree. You would say that was a good finale, right?
Yeah, I thought it was fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
Okay. Anyways, what has been your greatest disappointment for an adaptation from any type of entertainment? Mine is the second Silent Hills movie. Yarf! He says.
Yarf!
What do you guys think?
Trying to coin a catchphrase there?
Oh, the reboot of the Twilight Zone is absolutely.
Is that an adaptation, though?
Yeah.
It's a reboot, but I hear you. You could just hone in and just say Nightmare at 30,000 feet for the reboot. But I hear what you're saying.
Thank you.
Is it bad?
Jeff Cork and I have a podcast where we're still trying to chew on it and figure out if it's bad or not. It's uneven.
Leaning toward it.
How many episodes in are you guys?
9. There's only 10 in the
Ooh.
season.
Yeah.
It's already been
that's
renewed.
pretty bad.
It's like, I think they have good actors, and I think the direction
the
is
cast has been
typically
phenomenal.
Yeah, the direction I think has been interesting. It's just the writing isn't exactly coming anywhere near even Black Mirror levels, right? And it's like it's kind of disappointing to see Twilight Zone in this rut. But listen to our podcast. It's called Twilight Highlight Zone. It's very good. It's back on iTunes, everybody. You guys have answers?
Yeah. That Avatar movie.
I was actually going to say that.
Oh, of course.
Yep.
The Last Airbender.
Having not been a fan of Avatar until like late last year,
Yeah.
I was like, I finished that one. I was like, well, what an incredible show. And then I thought about that movie. It's like, oh my, I totally get it now. That
you
movie,
understand
the
why-
fact that that movie is so bad is so disappointing.
Insulting.
Having never
Yep.
seen that movie and having just finished the show, I was retroactively disappointed in that
There you go.
movie.
Yeah. Ugh. Cork, you once said that Avatar, the show, is what number for overall best TV show ever made?
Oh boy, I don't know if it's my absolute favorite. It's probably, if it isn't, it's very, very close.
Like top 3?
Oh, easily, yeah.
Top 2?
Maybe.
Okay, Serial, is that insane?
I don't know if I haven't made a top 10 list for my favorite shows, but probably maybe top 10.
Wow,
maybe.
there we go. Let's see. Jeff, being a Twilight Zone. Jeff from
Whoa.
Brooklyn, New York. It's a deep cut. Is hey, you wake up tomorrow morning to an urgent news alert on your phone. Did you guys hear about this? Something incredible has happened to all the ants around the world. You rush to turn on the TV just in time to hear a news anchor report that
Good timing.
by the way, I would just once in a movie, I want to see someone like say, turn on a TV. And then they turn on the TV.
It's commercials.
And commercials, or it's just like,
And that
the
was
last
that.
third. Yeah, and you don't know the context because it's always perfect. Like, what did the person see? Did the news anchor give like a 2-minute warning?
Yeah.
Tell your friends to do it. Turn on the TV now.
Tell your friends to do it.
Anyway, scientists have discovered that ants have an intelligence and comprehension level approaching that of human beings. Scientists also believe that ants have had this intelligence level for some time, but have been unable or unwilling to demonstrate it to humans. Or would you prefer the size of each ant species has increased proportionally so they're the size of large dogs? However, the worldwide ant population has decreased such that they do not take up more space on the Earth than they did before. Which report would you prefer to hear?
The smart ants.
Because you think they could like help us or like save us?
Whatever.
They're not gonna
I
help
just
us.
don't want giant ass ants running around. That'd be terrifying.
You'd want to see one though, wouldn't you?
I would want to smell it just to see like what an ant smells
Oh
like.
yeah, do bugs smell?
Yeah.
That classic question.
Yeah.
Does a butterfly smell?
I don't know.
Probably smells nice.
Well, yeah, most assuredly.
I mean, bees rub their butt on flowers all day and puke out honey. Like they must smell amazing.
yeah.
I've never tried though.
We should start
should.
smelling
Puking out
bugs.
honey?
Smell more bugs.
Next time we find a hive, you can stick your nose in.
Wait a second.
Brown rabbits.
Both of those are very horrifying scenarios, by the way.
Jeff, that's an insane thing that you just brought up.
Because I think if the ants were aware at that level, I think they would know that we're kind of a net negative around here. And they
Right.
would try to kill us.
Could they though?
Maybe.
I mean,
If
there's still
it's the
ants.
current ant population, could they kill us if they wanted
Isn't there
to?
some
Say the
ant that can,
intelligence.
whose bite can like almost immediately kill you? Like bullet ants or soldier ants or something
It's
like
just
that?
like getting
Probably.
a bullet. It's fine as long as it's not like in your gut.
Yeah.
You bleed out.
This grazed me.
Just
Send us all the emails about the lethality of ants for the next
because
podcast.
I don't think they could. I don't think they could take us out.
No.
What are they gonna do? Swarm like one of our nuke subs?
But couldn't
big whoop?
I guess. Can they communicate with other insects? Is that a thing they can do at all?
Oh,
Would they be able to tell the other insects like, no, guys, check
As
this
much
out.
as
These
we
guys
can
are
communicate with
bad."
a effing deer. Oh,
You don't know that for sure.
all right. I guess let.
You guys don't know much about animals, do you?
I've read Animorphs twice. Adam Levin says, Dear Ben Hansen and the Jazz Informers, hello. My best friend and I played Revolution 1979 together. Previously, he had been unaware of the CIA-organized coup that overthrew Iran's democratic government in 1953. We can't talk about that. One of the item descriptions in the game gave a brief overview of the coup and its installation of pro-American absolute monarchy in Iran. My friend said something along the lines of, no wonder Iran hates America. Get a load of this. He has done a total 180 after learning more from the game. Has a game ever changed your mind about a societal issue, even an apolitical one?
This is going to sound stupid.
Yep.
But Detroit actually changed. Like, I remember going into that game
Out.
and thinking, like, like if androids were like sentient, I'd be totally down with them like being integrated into society. But by the end of that game, I was like, I don't know if I actually want like the fact that they were so easily hackable actually gave me pause about like. Maybe they, like, which is the opposite of what that game is trying to tell you every step of the way. Of like, I know
right.
androids are people, but the fact that like they can so easily be manipulated by like a hacker or something, that was like the most I've ever given pause to like, maybe we would slow down a little bit at first.
Maybe we are the real monsters.
That's the other thing that I
interesting.
thought about. It was very deep and just I'd never seen that before.
I love that cereal. There we go. See? Cage's writing has an impact on people.
In the opposite, in that
In the opposite way
he
that it
was,
means.
I was convinced of the opposite of what he wanted to convince me of. Sure.
Yeah.
You'd be one of the people holding his sciences down with robots.
Oh, that explains the
No,
sign
I
by
would
your
go,
desk.
I
You're
would never
Sharpie
go out in the
doing it.
streets to protest anything. I'm too lazy for that.
That's true. You really? You wouldn't ever?
Cyberbullying, maybe?
If it was, yeah, that's right.
Anti-tiger tattoos?
That's right. Let me wear my tiger tattoo.
Forrest from Lawrence, Kansas says, hello. After listening to the Marvel Ultimate Alliance interview a little bit ago, it got me thinking about where game studios are located. Using www.gamedevmap.com, I put together a quiz about where games are made. I'll give the name of 2 states. You have to guess which one has more game studios.
All right.
Does this sound interesting?
Yeah.
Yep.
Minnesota or Wisconsin?
Wisconsin?
So we're talking like small, like any kind of developer.
We're going to go all over the place, baby.
Let's go Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Wisconsin has 24, Minnesota has 13. New York or Texas?
Texas?
Correct. Texas has 144. All right, Jeff Cork. This is for you. The freak states, as they say in The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Do you remember that joke?
Yeah.
That's very funny. It was like, you can fly anywhere in the continental United States, not the freak states, Alaska and Hawaii. And then Homer like tells his family that. He's like, where do you want to go? And Bert and Lisa are like, Alaska, Hawaii. You know? Anyways, Alaska or Hawaii? Which one has more getting over?
Hawaii, yeah.
Hawaii is 4. Alaska has 2. Do you know any of them?
Tony James.
Beautiful. Bonus question. California has the most studios. Without going over, who can guess the closest to the number of studios?
The next closest?
So guess the number, Price is Right rules.
Oh, how many?
550.
Okay.
I can already tell that's not the right answer, the way you looked at me.
Say 200.
200, says Jeff Cork.
201.
Oh, Surreal one. It's 609.
Nice.
I just have pure disdain for you. That's why I gave you that look.
I'm not.
That's not true. This is fun. You ready for this? Ready to get a load of this? This is Trevor from St. Louis, Missouri. Says, hey guys, hope you're all doing well.
We are.
Great.
Now I am.
I've done. Jeff Cork, what
Now that he's
are
had
you
his
drinking?
coffee.
Cherry Kool-Aid, of course.
How much Kool-Aid do you drink a day?
It
God,
is-
so much.
I'm not even going to lie. I exclusively drink Kool-Aid and coffee.
What?
I don't drink water.
Are you in the Jim Riley, former news editor camp of water tastes gross?
I'm doing an experiment. Can Kool-Aid kill me?
How fast can Jeff Cork die?
So far, it's safe.
I think we all like Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
But there's a certain amount of just like you get over it at about age 11.
Have you tried drinking water? It super sucks. It's so boring. I only drink that at restaurants. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do you ask? Do you have Kool-Aid off the menu?
Bottle of Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
What flavors you
Your
all
finest bottle of Kool-Aid.
All right. Take a little sample, sir, before we pour you the rest of the glass.
This one's blue.
got? Oh, very nice.
Hey guys, I hope you're all well. I've dialed up a little game I think might be fun.
Okay, Jigsaw.
Below are the taglines for various reviews over the years and the person who reviewed the game. You have to try and guess the name of the game. Are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm. Are we allowed to guess your own? If you
Yes, you can. I don't know if actually we have any here. Maybe this person's
Very
really smart.
self-centered. Surreal.
Yeah. All right.
Well, for you guys who have reviewed way more games.
So
Oh, judo flip.
Here we go.
Nicely done.
a legend worth a legend worth waiting for, with Joe Juba as the review writer. Relevant to this podcast.
Relevant to this podcast.
This episode of the podcast that only Surreal will understand that reference for.
Metal Gear Solid 5?
There we go, of course. Hey, good job, Surreal. Why,
Yeah, I did.
why can't you guys be more like
Yeah.
Surreal?
Unaided.
Now who's rigged the
You're the
game?
best of us.
Matt Cotto, The Road to Nowhere.
Oh, sweet lord, this is just one of those racing games.
High profile-ish. It has a sequel. This is the original.
The club. Drive Club.
Very close, very close.
Damn.
Closer with your first guess.
Oh, it's not the crew, is it?
I'm sorry, Jeff Cork, I cannot give you that. It is the crew. What, is that your guess saying it's not the crew? Elise Favis wrote Unearthing Ancient Secrets last week. She wrote this.
Oh, man.
I forgot the name of that one.
The one that was like the buzz of the office. Everyone was talking about it at the
Heaven's
water
Vault?
cooler. Wow, there we go. Yeah, I was joking, but yes, Heaven's Vault. Matt Burtz, Jungle is Calling.
Jungle is
The
calling.
Jungle.
Ghost Recon Wildlands?
Incorrect.
Another shooter in the jungle or Far Cry 4?
So Far Cry 3, the jungle one, man, not India.
I don't know.
Kyle Hilliard, A Rare Occasion.
This is the rare collection.
It is a rare replay. Here we go. Oh boy. Phil Kohler wrote Revolt Against Fate, Bound by Convention.
Good riddance.
Yeah, the answer is no, it's Kingdoms of Amalur. Brian Shea, not new, but still super.
New Super Mario Brothers 3D Wii U.
New Super Mario Brothers Wii U Deluxe?
Yeah, way to go. Amazing. Oh boy, again. Andrew Reiner, an RPG worth shouting about.
Worth shouting about.
Oh, Skyrim.
Yeah, I'd argue we shouted a little too loud about that one. Oh, let's see.
The greatest
Matt...
RPG of all time, you idiot.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Matt Miller, scavenging the fun.
He just wrote this, didn't he?
I don't know.
Void Bastards?
There we go. Void
There we go.
Bastards. Kyle Hilliard, toppling expectations.
Boom blocks.
Incorrect. This is Kyle Hilliard.
This is Kyle Hilliard we're
this
talking
is Kyle
about.
Hilliard.
He would never.
He's
review
not a boom
block,
block, sir.
Labo.
Toppling. Damn it. What else is that guy playing?
World War Z.
What was he going for with that?
Because the
'Cause they do
zombies
the thing.
make towers.
Because they
or
make
whatever.
a pile?
Yeah. Oh. Serial Vasquez writes,
Oh.
Oh, jeez.
tough calls, big payoffs.
Am I allowed to guess? Because I know it.
No.
No.
Okay.
Tough calls. Big fails.
That's got to be some fighting shit, right?
Tough calls? What button to press in a fighting game?
You're going to want to push the kick button.
We got a kick button request here.
I got nothing.
I don't know.
I don't know either. No, it's Throne Breaker.
Oh, yeah, naturally.
Oh, okay.
Kyle Hilliard, controlling a compelling nuisance.
Control.
Oh gosh.
I know
This-
review headlines are hard, but
This
this one
is
sucks.
Tip of my tongue.
A compelling nuisance.
Oh, I feel like I remember this, but I
I do too.
don't.
Donut County.
Damn it.
Okay. Dan Tack writes, a triumphant heir to the PC RPG 26 years later.
No, wait, no. No, never mind.
You were what then?
Never mind.
This is Wasteland 2.
I was gonna guess Divinity too, but until you said 26 years later.
Joe Juba writes, fixing the little problems while the big ones get worse. I remember this one.
That's like every review Joe writes.
Let's see. There was a feature, like a preview, written for this in the magazine. And the headline was Lightning Strikes Twice. And Joe's...
Final Fantasy 13-2.
There we go. Beautiful. J.V. Gwaltney, embracing the new frontier.
Apex.
There we go. Way to go, buddies. Way to go, buddies. What do you guys like for email of the week? I feel like we've done the review headline thing before.
The ant one was very horrifying. To think
Yeah. Favorite adaptation. He did say Yarf, which is pretty good.
Our new catchphrase.
Yeah, we can't stop saying it. What else stands out?
That guy who did all the developers in different states?
You like that as your favorite?
I don't know.
There's launch games.
Launch games.
I like worst Smash Brothers character. I like the best 3-run in any game series.
Yeah.
Even though we weren't flying off the charts with a great answer.
It's a good question to think about. We just didn't
Yeah.
Why don't you just pick it yourself, Hanson?
I will. I'm going to choose Chris from California, Maryland.
Why don't you just pick it every
Yarf!
week yourself?
Well, it's not exactly Yarf, but yes. Roundy Yarf to everyone there that wrote in.
and Yarf to you too.
Oh, and there's one more question saying, hey, Ben, this is from Trent from Adelaide, South Australia. Oh, there we go. He says, hey, when you're interviewing guests via Skype for the podcast, does it catch people off guard at the end when their call includes the podcast sign-off? I hope not. I try to warn them before the interview every time. I say, I'm going to be waving to a camera you can't see, and you can join me if you want. So usually it's pretty cool. Do people stick around after the recording stops to talk off the record? Sometimes. But also I think some people get confused, and I say, all right, thank you so much for watching the episode of the Game Inform Show. Bye, everybody, or whatever. And then some people are like, is this when I close Skype? And then they just like close Skype there, and it's like, oh, I would have like kept talking to you a little bit, but that's fine. Just do a little recap. Has anything big ever come up in a recording that you had to work back into the podcast? No, but every interview is better the second the camera turns off and the mic gets shut off. That is a rule of interviewing that is very difficult to get around. But there we go. Hey, if you like interviews, I'd stay tuned for the next one coming up from Kyle Hilliard. Leo, how did this one go?
Leave me alone, man. I'm minding my own business in here.
Great. Let's find out how Kyle's interview with Justin Roiland did, talking about Trover Saves the Universe.
Good luck.
Take it away, Kyle.
Justin Roiland, welcome to the Game Informer Show.
Thanks for having me.
How's it going, man?
I'm good.
Yeah?
I'm just tired. Yeah, I'm tired. I've been like not sleeping well, so I'm like exhausted, but
Well, you've got a game coming out on Friday, and then is Rick and Morty picking up too, so you got a lot going on right now?
yeah. We're headlong into production and it's awesome. Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's talk about Trover and Squanch specifically. I would love to know why you decided to found a video game studio. You know, where did you get the confidence to decide to do video games?
It wasn't even so much confidence as it was truly it was the invention of VR, I think, is what sort of made me even think to move in this direction. You know, I'm a lifelong gamer, so I've got all this video game, you know, like thousands and thousands of hours of just playing and consuming video games just stored away in my subconscious. So it's like when we started the studio, I was like, I basically what kicked it off was the DK1 was sort of like, you know, interesting, you know, the Oculus DK1. I was like, this is amazing. The DK2 was really when it started to, like, ideas started to go into my brain, and I started writing down in my notebook, like, basically both intellectual property, like characters, worlds, stories, but also like mechanics, like actual VR. Because this was the Wild West of VR. It was like, okay, how do you locomote? What are really interesting creative ways to move around in a world in VR when you have the limitation of not being able to actually just move freely? You know, all these like questions that have been dealt with quite extensively up, you know, at this point. But all that stuff really excited me. This is like, you know, the Wild West, new frontier. And so I was obsessed with it. And then I started developing on paper several different video game ideas based on room scale VR. I got a hold of one of the early Vive dev kits way before it was out. So I had that. I had a good like 8 months, maybe more of like, you know, just playing with that thing before it had been released. And that led me to like get serious. Like I want to make a game. Like that was my goal. I want to make a video game in VR. And so that was kind of the guiding light. And then it was just, okay, what do I got to do? I got to find a producer. That's number one, right? I need someone who's made a video game before, made, you know, ideally mini, shipped them, you know, knows how to do it. And so I met with Ophir Lupu over at UTA, who's my video game agent, and he basically was my Sherpa guiding me into the world of, you know, video game. He could tell right away that I wasn't just the typical actor or writer or whoever, you know, whatever, who wants to make a game. I actually, like, I knew a lot about game design. I was surprising myself. I was like, oh, I actually inadvertently picked up a lot of, you know, things over the years. And so he took me seriously, and thank God, because like, you know, looking back, that was like a little over 3 years ago, and here we are with our first game, which is kind of insane how fast it all kind of came together. But anyways, through him, I met Tanya Watson, my partner at Squanch Games, and Tanya, and that was when it really kind of like kicked off. It was like, okay, this is like just prior to meeting Tanya and partnering with her, I was pitching a game at E3 to everybody that would listen, and pitched it to Sony by complete accident because it was a room scale. Oh, go ahead.
Well, were you setting up meetings at E3? Because E3 is usually a place to like show off games.
Yeah, no, I was setting up meetings through UTA. I was like meeting with whoever would listen, you know.
Gotcha.
But it was very much a room scale VR game pitch. And again, this is the days prior to launch. Like this is before, you know, the Vive is available, you know, on like retail shelves or just even online. I mean, this is like.
And no one knows. VR wasn't even a thing at that point, right? Hadn't been announced yet, I imagine.
No, it was announced, but it was. I think it was announced. I'm pretty sure people knew. Yeah, no, people knew because I think that what were they calling the PSVR? They were calling it like the Morpheus or something.
That sounds right. It's been a while. I don't remember the code name now.
Yeah, they were showing that off at Comic-Con, so that was out, or that was. Although it's all a big blur, but I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that it was at least people knew about it. I know for sure. I think. For sure, people knew about it because this was like long after I'd had a Vive for a little while, and I was showing everyone I could get to come over. You know what I mean? I was like, come over and play this. It's going to blow your mind. But so I developed this game for room scale, and then I'm pitching it, and then I pitch it to Sony. I pitch it to Adam Boyes, actually, back when he was still with Sony. He grabbed me and he's like, pitch me your game. So I pitch it to him, and he flips out. He loves it. So then I meet, God, why am I blanking? John, I know his name. Jesus Christ. And
John Drake.
Thank you, John Drake.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Anyway, so I
Thank you,
pitch it to
mysterious
John
voice.
Drake. Yeah, John Drake, the most memorable name. It really is. But no, so I pitch it to John and his team with Adam, and like they fucking love it. But it's a room scale VR game, right? Anyway, so whatever. I'm getting in the weeds, but the point is, I think VR is what really got me going and got me like, you know, realizing this crazy path of making video games. But then it wasn't until about halfway through development of Trover and having staffed up a game studio with amazing people that I love that I realized, oh, we could just make video games too. Like, it doesn't just have to be like, because I never in a million years ever thought to myself like, oh, I can make a video game. It just seemed like such a distant, you know, star, like to try to reach for. It was like this weird other medium I didn't understand. But then, you know, VR was sort of this gateway drug that led to, you know, me now having a studio with amazing people. And now we're like, and that's why halfway through Trover, we realized, well, let's see how this plays on a TV and not in VR at all. And then we did the prototyping, you know, to sort of like quote unquote port it to just the TV. And that was like just sort of this insane, like epiphany moment of like, this game is fucking weird on the TV in a good way. Like, really, in my opinion, like I played it more on the TV once we got it working on the TV than I did in VR. Just because it's this weird, like, first person, third person, like co-op with yourself adventure thing, you know?
Yeah.
You know, like a fourth person game. I don't even know, like, if there's I've never seen it before. I don't know if it's been done actually quite the way we have, but it was this happy accident, you know, because we started in VR and then we ported it, so yeah, but anyways, so it was this sort of weird journey, this kind of unexpected journey that led me to, you know, having this amazing team and a studio and all these great ideas and all these things that we plan to do that are not just VR, but like, you know, just games in general.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
So you no longer feel beholden to VR. Like, you guys don't consider yourselves like a VR dev at this point.
No, but we love VR. Like, we're a studio that's incredibly excited and interested in, like, you know, all these emerging technologies, AR, VR. Like, I mean, that's what got my foot in the door, right? That's what got me excited about all this to begin with. So we definitely are super interested in exploring and continuing to work in those mediums. But I think the epiphany I had much later than everyone else was like, oh, we could just make a game. Like, you know, it doesn't have to be in VR. Like, we could just, you know what I mean? And then all these other game ideas start flooding into my brain. You know, like a new door is opened and it's like all this other shit starts coming in. So yeah, it's been a really cool, fun, interesting like journey for sure.
Have you played around with Quest at all yet?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've been playing with it quite a bit. It's kind of the holy grail, you know, in regards to like back when I first got like the very first room scale VR experience. It was like, oh, this would be so amazing if it was untethered.
Yeah.
Like that, you know, obviously you want 6 degrees on all of your, you know, you don't want 3 degrees. I mean, whatever, 3 degrees is cool, but it's like, come on, like we want to move into the future. And so, yeah, this is definitely, the Quest is really, really exciting. It's exciting. I hope that they sell a lot of them, you know, I hope that there's a high install base. Bring in a bunch of good devs. You know, it's this weird sort of like, you know, like a catch-22 thing. You need a high install base in order to attract the big AAA developers, but the AAA developers sort of don't want to. I don't know.
They don't want to work with a small install base. Yeah, for sure.
Like, oh, we're gonna make a $30 million game and sell it to 100,000 people. No, I don't think that's gonna. Yeah. That doesn't make good business sense. You know.
Sure. So Justin, what's your workload right now? You got a game coming out on Friday. Like, is it just absolutely insane?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, right now it's it's all marketing stuff, you know, press stuff, and then we've got post-launch support stuff, for Trover. We're doing DLC stuff for the game.
Cool.
It's really cool. It's free. And it's continued adventures of you and Trover. It's sort of a parallel reality. Well, whatever. I mean, it's really cool. It's an interesting, just us taking all this world building stuff that we had all the, what is this place? Who is Trover? Where does he work? All that kind of stuff. And realizing it a little bit more in another sort of separate storyline that we're going to kind of continually update.
Yeah.
Post release. So anyone that buys the game will get that stuff for free.
That's cool.
And again, it's dual. You could play it in VR or on the TV. All that stuff. But yeah. The video game stuff, 2 TV shows. I got a show called Solar Opposites.
Yeah. And then I was watching Star versus the Forces of Evil, and like you're in there too, and then like you're just showing up all over the place.
Yeah, those are like quick. Those are just like going into like I'm friends with Darren, so she was like, "Hey, will you do a voice?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So those are quick, like couple hours, whatever. But yeah,
pass along to her, by the way, that I think that show's fantastic and underrated.
I will tell her that she needs to hear it. She should hear that more. I mean, it's an incredible show. She's gonna do just fine though. She's one of the most talented people. Oh my God.
Yeah, sorry to sidetrack you.
It's okay.
It just totally caught me off guard. I was like, is that Justin? Is he a magical broom right now? Isn't he doing a million things?
My voice is I have like 4 different voices I can do, so it's pretty easy to detect me now if you hear it.
No, it's always fun. So let's talk about Trover a little bit. We're not going to go into spoilers or anything, but I mean, where did that game come from? Was that in that notebook when you first played Oculus? Were you kind of writing down ideas for Trover, or did it come from somewhere else?
Yeah. So I feel this is not an exaggeration. When I got the Vive dev kit, I filled about 8 sketchbooks, like literally like big thick sketchbooks. It was sort of between. It was probably 80% VR ideas and then 20% like Solar Opposites and other stuff, like Rick and Morty stuff, like just a bunch of stuff. But the VR stuff was the major, like just stuff. The outpour of creativity was all mostly VR, game design stuff. So Trover was started as a room scale, like an early version of it was a completely different game. I probably shouldn't pitch because we might do it someday, but ultimately there was a character in the game that was an eye hole monster, this little creature that has these other smaller creatures plugged into his eyes. And the idea was that it would be an enemy. Really, it was going to be an enemy type that you would see. And based off the color of the eye hole monsters, that would give the player an indication as to what sort of damage it could do to you, like what kind of weapon it was wielding. That was like the only tell. It was like, oh, it has 2 green eye hole monsters. That means it shoots like poisonous slime. Okay, I need to make sure it changes your strategy on how you approach.
Yeah.
So this character was like, I don't know. I was obsessed with the idea of these eye hole, the whole eye hole thing.
I like that. That's the starting line. just like the idea of eyeballs missing and other things inside of there.
Yeah, and that being like some sort of symbiotic relationship between the character and these little creatures it plugs in, and those little creatures giving the character some kind of upgrade or special abilities or what I mean, like that kind of like that whole thing. But the thing that was sort of like became the thing that really became what Trover is, or what really like got me going in that direction, was when I got my first like seated VR headset, which was essentially just a Gear VR. It was like just a phone. I had like a Samsung whatever model, in a Gear VR headset with a Bluetooth gamepad. Mm-hmm. And I started downloading all these other games, and it was 3 degrees on the headset, but I wasn't paying attention to that so much as just, okay, so what's out there in the seated VR space? Because I've been so entrenched in room scale, and so I must have played 50 different things, took a ton of notes, and just picked up like, okay, this mechanic is really, really cool from this game, whatever. I can't even remember some of the games, but like what were the games that I had the most fun in? What were the games that I spent the most time in? Like what were the most like hooky, sticky, like VR experiences for seated with a gamepad? And by and large, they were third-person experiences. Like every game where I was controlling another character was really compelling, and I spent a lot of time in it. There's a game called Hero Bound. I do remember that one. Hero Bound is sort of like a Zelda kind of game. It's really simple, basic, third person, and you're a disembodied. Like they're using VR very much as a new sort of TV. There's no real you're just a floating observer controlling a little, Zelda-esque character, kind of going through this very well designed game, like Zelda video game style game in VR, and it was really, really compelling. And that's when I started putting all these pieces together of all of these different things, and then just a bunch of new ideas that I had in my head of sort of like a first person, third person. I always knew I wanted you to be there. When you put the headset on, like you're with, it's not a disembodied head, like the characters are going to be talking to you. You're going to be present. You're going to be a part of the story. I always knew that from day one because that was something I felt was missing across the board in VR. It was a lot of cool tech stuff and a lot of really good gameplay stuff, but there wasn't a lot of personality or IP or character, moments. That there were a few here and there, but nothing like really like to the level that I wanted to see. So I knew that would be a big component. Realized that third person control was sort of the thing that was the most compelling for me. And then obviously like we're headlong into development on Trover, and Astrobot demo comes out and we're like, this is fucking amazing. Like we're playing it, we're just like, yeah, this is the best. Like we just knew like, okay, we're making the right thing. Like we're doing the right thing. Because if Astrobot, like if we had played that and been like, oh shit, I don't know, you know what I mean?
It gave you confidence in your design.
Yeah, I mean, we were just all excited, and we're looking at things that they did, like okay, like the little lights that come out of the robot's feet, to help with like depth, like to make a jump, like little polished things that they did, like things that we sort of were like, oh, that's Trover needs to have some kind of like thing coming out of his feet, because like shit like that. But anyway, so yeah, it was a lot of like me being a fan, being a gamer, being entrenched in the medium, playing games, like studying them, what makes them good. A lot of that went into the early days of the foundational kind of scaffolding for what became Trover. And I mean, truthfully, if you talk to Tanya or anyone who's been with us from the very beginning, they will tell you that the stuff that like on paper, like all the ideas, like usually game design, I've been told many times that you'll change, you'll pivot, you'll throw a bunch of shit out multiple times. Like you're trying to find it. It started out as a tower defense game, and now it's like Dead Cells started out as a tower defense. Like now it's a full on like a Metroidvania with like, a roguelike, whatever. It's insane, right?
Yeah.
So our game really never changed. It was always like the warp nodes, the like all of those core systems, like never, they all worked. And I think it's because I fucking literally sat and played hours and hours and hours of other games, and I imagined, okay, if I took this lerping system, if I took this like this amount of degrees of rotation, because there's all kinds of weird shit, the speed of which you rotate, instead of blink rotate, I want some contextual, like I want to kind of feel that I rotated, but not too slow because you get sick, and all of that kind of shit. But then also just game design stuff. And just spend a lot of time with it and on the page, because I'm not an engineer or a programmer. I couldn't like pop open Unity or even Unreal and be like, let me just build this real quick and test it and see.
Yeah.
So but anyways, but that was the big thing, was like, well, let's test this shit. That was step one. And then I was fully aware that it might fall on its face at any point, once we get it fully realized, oh, this isn't fun. Or this, what I mean, all the typical game development stuff that I'm new to. But it ultimately just kind of kept moving. It was working. Like things would click into place. We would dial, we'd tweak, and it would work. And then, yeah, it was very weird. And then we just kept building, on top of that foundation. All of the characters, the moments, the story.
Gotcha.
I don't know if that was where, I don't know how we got, if that was your question or
that
not.
actually kind of, it does lead into a question I actually had written down. Was like, what is your day to day? Because you're not a programmer, right? Or you're doing a lot of art, I imagine, and you're writing the story. But then in terms of like what you're doing for the design, is it you're just like giving people ideas and then playing versions of it and giving feedback?
I mean, it's changed. I mean, in the beginning, it was way more, way more focused on the moment to moment like design stuff. Now it's a lot. It's still, there's a lot of, it's like I'm the creative director, so it's like any new IP, any I'm always coming with like crazy. I got another crazy idea for. I mean, shit that I can't talk about. Like
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that we can't talk about that I'm busy with. On Trover, as we got towards the end of it, a lot of recording, a lot of rewriting, a lot of re-recording, playing the game top to bottom, building giant Google Docs or whatever of notes, that are everything from I found a bug to there should be a puff of air between this line and this line, like really stupid stuff like that, literally. But we have such a talented, amazing team. I mean, that's kind of the dream, right? On any project is you want to be working with really great people that you can just delegate. So at this point on Trover, it's like, hey, will you take a look at this stuff and see what you think? And then I weigh in and I'll steer things creatively by sort of, delegating and sort of just giving notes and weighing in. I don't know. I just watched a documentary with Jim Henson making The Dark Crystal, and it was very fucking weird because I was like, as a kid, I remember watching that documentary and going, oh my God, Jim Henson's a fucking god. I want to be like him, And then I watched it recently and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm literally doing the same shit that he's doing in this documentary I watched as a kid. It's fucking insane. Like, holy shit. He's just like, look, all these talented people around him. Like, here, look at this. What do you think of this? Like, look at all this amazing shit we made. Pick the one you like,
Yeah.
And he's, I kind of think this is cool for the, and he's pouring out all this creative energy into them and they're like reciprocating it back. It's just fucking crazy. So that's kind of what I do, like on my best days,
Yeah. I mean, were you, as someone who's not a game designer originally, but working with game designers, did you ever just get like a flat out, no, you are a crazy person, that's not going to work? Or did you keep it pretty grounded throughout?
My whole life, right? Yeah, but like, I think this one was different because I really brought it. Like I could hand you the document at that E3 I was talking about, and you could look at it and see. And I basically paid like people, like artists I knew. I basically freelance paid them to get me some cool concept art. I put a bunch of my concept art that. I'm not the best artist in the world, but my sketchbook was filled with it. So I was putting my art in, and then wherever I could get somebody who was really good to replace one of my pieces, I would do it. And so I had this really good little mini game design document with me that really told the story and explained the game design. And I mean, there really wasn't much that needed to be explained. After you kind of flip through it, you really got, okay, I understand what this is. Beginning, middle, end, characters, game design, flow, all that stuff, like how the game works, concept art, maps, like everything.
Yeah.
So I think it was hard not to take me seriously at that point. But dude, I mean, yeah, if I had tried to go pitch a game, I mean, I've gone in and pitched shows and they're like, this fucking guy, I mean, yeah, it's easy to not take people seriously. It's hard, man, because there's so little follow through, I think, in the world that you need to know someone's going to follow through. That's hard to find, I think. But,
yeah. So the advice is to just come in with a big ass notebook. Just
everything.
Right.
Have your big ass notebooks, but then take those and distill those down to a really digestible, 5 to 10 page packet.
Gotcha.
That staple in the corner. It looks pretty. It's got, whatever. But mean, but really the most important thing is to just finish what you start if you can, and try not to. My big thing I tell people, I see it all the time. They're like, I'm writing a 700-page novel. I'm like, listen, start with a 5-page story. Give yourself the lowest bar, that you can creatively, and make that your goal, and just a bunch of mini victories before you get to the 700-page thing that you're gonna,
yeah.
I don't know, but that's a total sidebar of what do you tell people who want to?
Yeah, no, I think that's interesting though. So making Trover overall, just to kind of sum it up, was it harder than you thought it would be, or was it about what you expected? Being a game design?
There were things about it that were harder, like scoping, unexpected, obviously we have a budget and a schedule. We have to be realistic about that. And the very first draft of the story had a lot more twists and turns, and kind of was what we realized not too far in development, we realized, like, okay, if we made this game exactly as written, we're talking, this is a 30 to 40 hour game right here. And I mean, and it became very apparent once we got the whole first level blocked in and how long it took to get through that first level. It was like, yeah, I need to go back and look at the script and find some cuts, That stuff was hard because I had fallen in love with it. I'd like fallen in love with the story just exactly as it was, and all these funny moments and beats that I was like, oh, but they're so crazy, they're so cool. But it was like, that's stuff that, that's where art, compromise and art come together to create something that's, it's like, I don't know, like Jodorowsky's Dune. It's like, have you ever seen that documentary?
I'm familiar with it. I haven't watched it though.
It's like, or what's his name trying to make, I think he finally finished it, Don Quixote, what's his name? Terry Gilliam for like the last, God only knows how many years.
Yeah, Lost in La Mancha, that documentary, right, about him just
another
all
one,
falling apart in his hands.
I guess those are the worst case examples where just the realities come in and destroy the art,
Yeah.
But in most cases, it's a nice kind of like meeting in the middle where it's like, okay, if you could have exactly what you wanted, it would be different. But these realities came in and tempered that and actually made it better, like in a weird way.
Yeah.
I think the game is better for those scoping meetings. Usually that's the case, But yeah, so that was always difficult. Like, okay, I got to go back and cut like a whole level and figure out how to get this story information into other parts of the game. You know what I mean? And but then that shit just became fun. The more we realized, like, okay, we're going to be real loose with the moment to moment stuff. Then it was just like, okay, well, whatever. Then we can just have fun. And a lot of that was happy accident stuff, like me temping a bunch of stuff and not giving a shit, and then us playing it and it working really well, and like Focus playing it and people really liking it, and story comprehension was working, and we're like, well, shit, if people are tracking the story and it's making us laugh really hard, we've got 1,000 other fires to put out. Let's just leave this shit alone and keep moving, So then there I am yet again doing another character's voice in this game that I wasn't originally planning to do.
Yeah.
But like, just blocking shit in and temping a bunch of characters, and then later on it's like, well, this stuff is really funny and it's working. And part of the magic was how none of us gave a shit because we knew we were going to replace it later. You know what I mean? And then it's like, well, no, now that's the tone, that's the game. And then we just leaned into that like hardcore for the rest of it.
Yeah, it has like I said, we're not getting into spoilers or anything, but I will say the game has a very improvisational style that is, I mean, that's not something you attach to video games, right? Like improv is not a thing in a video game, No,
not at all. And I mean, that's definitely something I wanted to do going into games. Like you see it in accounting, like the game I did with William Pugh and Dom, like over at Crows. So it's like, that was very much like, that's always going to be the way, like improv and just weird, long rambling opt-in dialogue moments and stuff like that. But I didn't think we would get this loose, but I love it. I love that we did. I love taking a medium that takes so many, people hours to like fucking pour over and build and like animate, and taking a medium that's so time intensive and blood, sweat, and tears intensive, and then just not giving a about like, if the dialogue if there's stutters in it, or if it's like a complete like outtake. You know what I mean? Like that, like in cartoons, I was obsessed with it, just doing it in cartoons. Like always, it was like the idea of sitting there and hand animating a fucking character who's stuttering and can't get a sentence out that's clearly an outtake, or like my friend Abed I used to get him to yell a lot, and it would cause him to start coughing really bad, and he didn't realize that I was doing it on purpose to get him to cough, because I wanted takes of him coughing and just like break, like totally like real, like he's breaking character and he's just hacking a lung up. And I would use all that shit. I would take that audio and use it every take. I was like looking for Abed coughing in the middle of a line and just like gasping, and like luckily I didn't hurt him, but he's fine. He's fine. He's living his best life. But yeah, so that kind of stuff is, I love that stuff, and I'm always surprised, and I love to see it in games myself. So
yeah. So what do you want players to take away from Trover? Like, do you want, when people introduce you now following Trover, do you want to be like the Trover guy, or are you going to be co-creator of Rick and Morty like for the rest of your life. And
I
there's
mean,
no
I
escaping
don't know.
that.
I just a person, just a human being, content creator, I guess.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's a tough question because that gets into like, who am I? What are we really? What are we even? Like, I think we're just a weird speck of bacteria that we're nothing, like, really. But I don't know. I guess yeah. Rick and Morty co-creator and game person. I don't
Game person,
no
yeah.
idea.
Well, what do you want people to take away from it when they play it? I mean, humor, right, is like a big part of it.
Yeah. No, I want people to take. I want my what makes me happy is hearing that, like, hey, your game got me through a tough thing. Like, I was really upset. I was broken over a relationship, or I was going through a tough patch, and your game really cheered me up. It made me happy, and I that's the best stuff you could ever hear from anybody. And I get that a lot for Rick and Morty, and like Dan as well, like, has heard that. It's like, hey, your show got me through a tough thing. And there's so many shows like that for me, or games. A lot of games I've just like lost myself in through a tough patch. People who are struggling with depression, like, hey, your game made me fucking forget about the sadness that kind of is this baseline through my life. For every moment I was in your game, I was laughing and not thinking about that shit. So that's the goal. It's an escape, really, right? I mean, I don't anticipate any sort of huge epiphanies to come to anybody from our game, or any, it's more just like, yeah, man, I had a lot of fun and I laughed really hard, and it made me forget about my hardships, as a human being on this whole planet that's dying, and we're all fighting with each other. And like, it's a weird time, but so yeah, just put that headset on and or play it on your TV and just escape.
Gotcha. Well, just a good final question that I just like to ask is like, what is your favorite video game of all time? Just period. What was the game that meant everything to you?
I mean, the first, before you even finish the sentence, the first game that jumped into my head was Metroid. I have to
original
say, like,
NES Metroid.
Yeah, the original. I mean, obviously the way they've built on those original systems with all of the subsequent, 2D or 2.5D, side-scrolling versions of that game, they're all just better. They're all just incredible. The one after the next is amazing, and I'm so happy we got a 3DS Metroid. I was so worried. We were like, oh, we're gonna go through a whole life cycle of a fucking three-dimensional fucking 3D handheld, system from Nintendo without a fucking single Metroid game, motherfucker, not even a remake. And then they finally gave us one, and like, here's your remake, but it's amazing. I'm like, dude, why didn't we get this 4 or 5 years ago? And why not like 3 sequels?
Yeah.
I mean, like, dude, that game is like, so yeah, that's like the first one. But then I'd say the second one would probably be Grand Theft Auto 3, and that's because my whole life I'd play like Rad Racer or Burnout or so, not Burnout, Outrun, all these like racing games, what's the fucking Road Rash, all this kind of stuff. And always I would be thinking, man, I wish I could drive to those weird mountains, whatever the stupid skybox thing. I wish I could just go to the right, just go off the road and go where the fuck I want to go. Or I'd be playing some other game, and I'd be like, man, I wish I could just steal that person's car, or just all this stuff. You're playing video games and you're sort of projecting these, like, the ultimate game would be if I could do this, this, and this. And then GTA comes out, and they're like, yeah, here it is. Here's your game that you've been dreaming about your whole life. And it's exactly like, yeah, I know you can do all that shit. Here it is. Have fun. And so that game was just like, and I was aware of it because I'd played their first two. I'd played the top-down ones, and I was just like, for hours and hours just playing those top-down ones on my PC. I'd put in like like Hole or like Nirvana or whatever, like put in my own music and just listen and play that fucking game for hours. And so when I read articles about it coming out, and just I could tell, you could just they knew what they had, man. Like, if you read those old articles of them before the game came out, there's a confidence in them. They knew, like, oh, we know what we've got. Like, it's gonna fucking blow your mind. Like, they knew, like, there was just this, like, you just knew it was gonna be something special. So when I got that game, it just blew my mind.
Oh,
I mean, there's so many though. Like, I'm going way back to like what are like pivotal gaming moments in my life. And those two are for sure. I mean, Mario 64 was another one that blew my mind. But like, probably not as much as GTA 3. I think GTA 3 really was just like, holy shit. And then it was like, why? What's wrong with everyone else? Like, why is everyone like, what are all the other devs doing right now?
Yeah, and then you made a game and you realized how difficult it is to make an open world game.
It's fucking hard, dude. Yeah, no, it's like, okay, got it. Yeah, not easy. It is hard, man. And those guys had two in the can, you know, top down. Like they did it right. Like they dipped their toes in the water in a way that was like, again, like setting the bar not too high. Like they weren't going to go, hey, our first game's going to be a giant 3D open world game. We've never made one before. Let's go. It's like, no, they've made 2 open world games, but they were, you know, obviously they were dipping their toe into a different kind of engine and stuff, but whatever. Like, it's crazy, man. Like, it is hard to make a game, man. It's hard. There's a lot of like compromise, and there's a lot of, but honestly, if you look at compromise as creative offers, like how can we take this and get creative? Like this is a compromise we have to make. How can we take this and turn it into a joke, into a funny moment, into you know, whatever it is. Like if you approach compromise that way, then it's never a bad thing. You know, it's always something fun, and it's always an offer for either a fun game moment or a fun comedy moment.
Gotcha. Well, thanks so much, Justin. I appreciate you taking the time to talk about Squanch and Trover and everything. And thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show podcast. Be sure to tune in next Thursday. We'll have another episode waiting for you. Thanks so much.
Great. This is exactly the energy I'm hoping for. Fucking impatient silence.
Die hard, man.
Holy God.
Yeah, cool. It's fine, Hanson. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay. What do we got?